Couple of hours earlier, Mutrad, who Tanulia met at Peyton's funeral, descended onto a front lawn of a lavish manor in Kingdom Marin's border. The manor was a single property built on 10 acres of grass field and vineyard. No one in the area as far as one could see. Despite Mutrad's status in House Halrid, he arrived at the manor alone with no guards whatsoever. The Guardians offered Mutrad the manor as a base of operation where Halrid would take on the task of finding the Dark Lord. From the outside, the manor looked lavish. It had been built with gray stones and had mahogany wooden decorations. Tall, rounded windows let in plenty of light and added to the house in a very asymmetric way. The building itself was square-shaped with half surrounded by cloth sunscreens. The second floor was the same size as the first, but part of it hung over the edge of the floor below, creating an overhang on one side and a balcony on the other. This floor had roughly the same style as the floor below. The roof was high, rounded, and covered with wood shingles. 2 small chimneys sit at the side of the house. A few large windows let in just enough light to the rooms below the roof. Mutrad finally landed on the modest front lawn, covered mostly in grass, a few flower patches, and a small pond. He looked at the clouds-filled sky and the snowflakes showering down upon him. He dusted off the snowflakes off of his dark brown robes and his sky-blue hair before making his way to the front door. No one was there to welcome Mutrad when he opened the door except a lone pathway to the hall. Mutrad closed the door behind him and walked to the hall where Mutrad saw 3 white-robed youngsters waiting for him. The chandelier above let out bright white light to illuminate the empty halls as well as the whiteboard. The youngsters stood up from the sofas to greet Mutrad. Lord Mutrad, Lord Mutrad, Lord Mutrad. The 3 of them greeted Mutrad, but Mutrad just nodded without showing any signs of friendliness. "Remove your hoods and introduce yourselves," Mutrad said. He then turned around and waved his hand as a whiteboard familiar to the trio materialized before their eyes. They took a moment to see the contents on the whiteboard, but soon, they removed their hoods to reveal their faces. Among the 3, one was a golden-haired young woman and the other 2 were young men. "I was told there are 4 people in Operation New Dawn." The youngsters were surprised that Mutrad knew about a secret operation led by Peyton. But again, they were told Mutrad would take over the task to find the Dark Lord from the Guardians after their spectacular failure, which cost the Guardians one of their powerful warships and headquarters in Elon. Moreover, the Guardians were still trying to navigate away from the storm created by the Dark Lord by exposing the Guardians' connection with the vampires. Many noble families, as well as royal families, expressed their discontent. The commoners blamed the Guardians for not letting the world know about the vampires. Not that anyone could stop the vampires, but they all hated to be the blind side. Visits. For a better user experience due to these reasons, the higher-ups in the Guardian Guild chose to hand over handling the Dark Lord to House Halrid, not that the Guardians had any choice in the matter. Unless they wanted a full-on war with the Sea Folks, they had to give up the case to Mutrad. "Go on," Mutrad said while looking at the paper clippings and the pictures on the whiteboard. He didn't bother to turn around because, as far as Mutrad was concerned, the Guardians were lazy, corrupted morons who couldn't do their job correctly. "Tell me your names, cultivation level, and the target assigned to you by Peyton." Mutrad stood there with his hands folded. "I am Cassandra Perito. I recently reached core formation level 6, and my targets were Marco and Filippo. Both are rogue cultivators," said the blonde. Following the blonde, the red-haired young man began to introduce himself to Mutrad. "I am Tomas Bell, core formation level 9. I got Hudson, Lucas, and Calypso as my targets. Hudson is a disciple of Golden Valley, Lucas and Calypso are rogue cultivators." Mutrad rubbed his chin as the last one stepped forward. "Name is Lado Sikanava. Core formation level 8. Rogue cultivators Vladimir and Petro were my targets." After the 3 introduced themselves, Mutrad turned around. For a moment, Mutrad stared curiously at the 3 of them. "Do any of you know where Connors is?" asked Mutrad, although he knew the answer to his question. "No answer," Mutrad asked, looking at the 3 staring at each other, expecting the other to say something. "Do you know who his target was?" Mutrad asked, tilting his head. Considering the 3 of them were told to give their full cooperation to Mutrad whether they liked it or not, The girl didn't hide what she knew. She and Connors used to date at the time when Peyton put together a team for the Operation New Dawn. Although she and Connors broke up due to some differences, he revealed his targets to her. The latest episodes are on _ website. Ghost. To their surprise, Mutrad grinned upon hearing Cassandra. He slowly walked towards the trio and looked them in their eyes. Connors is dead, said Mutrad nonchalantly. Cassandra looked at the smiling Mutrad. When she locked eyes with him, she averted her gaze. She was afraid her relationship with Connors might be a hurdle to her rise in the Guardian Guild. Connors' death didn't affect her as much as the thought of being stuck at the bottom without any promotions. The eyes of the three were on Mutrad to see what he was about to tell next. Instead, Mutrad turned around. Ghost. Mutrad placed Michael's picture beside Gaia's. Afterward, Mutrad snapped his finger, taking a quill from his space ring. He started to put a cross on every one of their targets except Michael and Gaia. The trio had questions about why Mutrad crossed off the others but chose not to until he turned around again. When he did, Cassandra was the first one to raise a question. Lord Mutrad, why did you cross them off the board? Asked Cassandra. They are dead, Mutrad simply said like it was a simple thing. Some of the targets were soul refiners. Still, Mutrad said they are dead. The trio wondered what could have killed them. However, soon they received a shocking answer from Mutrad. Someone put a bounty on their heads. As a result, they were hunted down. Except these two, Mutrad pointed at Gaia and Ghost. I have another suspect who could be the Dark Lord or related to him. Mutrad stunned everyone by sticking Noah's picture on the board. Noah Winston? The trio was stunned. Noah was the rising star of the Guardian Guild. Not only that, but he was also the youngest to sit on the Guardian Captain's chair. Saying Noah was an assailant to the Dark Lord, or worse, saying he was the Dark Lord, was nothing short of blasphemy. Mutrad had no right to accuse Noah of such a heinous crime. What do you know about Ghost before he comes to the river town? Nothing. He just appeared one day, right? Mutrad asked as his gaze swept across them. Visits. For a better user experience, the Dark Lord appears exactly 5 months after he arrived, Mutrad said. A month later, Jane Totonk had a quarrel with him, and 2 weeks later, she was killed and hanged from her own home. At the same time, there were also several victims, but they all died within Elon. Especially, within a day of flying distance from Rivertown. According to my sources, he went from a body refining stage cultivator to a fusion stage cultivator in just 19 months. Not even humankind's best of the bests have such monstrous cultivation speed. That's just the fact one. Mutrad began to walk left and right with his hands behind his back. Second fact. Connors went missing when he was tasked to deal with a senator in the southern continent. At the same time, a pirate captain dressed in black who could wield magic inside the void line appeared. Connor was last seen when he visited Senator Vibius. Coincidentally, Senator Vibius left the kingdom at the same time Connors went missing. The three of them heard rumors about someone who could use arch energy within the void line. At first, they thought it was just a ruse, but after hearing from Mutrad, they didn't think it was. Nonetheless, the piece of news startled them. Mutrad had all the resources of House of Halrid at his disposal, along with the Guardian's records. Using both, it wasn't tough to find everything about Connor. Although Peyton was on the right track to find the Dark Lord, she didn't have the resources or authority like Mutrad to filter the suspect list effectively. After all, it cost Mutrad 80 million to put a bounty on all the suspects, including Michael. So, just to be safe, Mutrad requested the Grim Reapers to send fusion stage Reapers after the targets. To Mutrad's surprise, only one survived, Ghost. Connor's soul suffered in agony in the last moments of his life. He was tortured brutally. Assume the magic wielder is the Dark Lord, and he was the one who kidnapped Connors. Why did he torture Connors? The Dark Lord took his time with Connors. But Mutrad directed his gaze to the three of them. Instead of asking Mutrad how did he know for sure that not only Connors is dead, but also he was tortured, the trio picked their brains to answer Mutrad. Deep down, they wanted to impress Mutrad so they could get a shot at a promotion. After all, they were handpicked by Peyton because they were power-hungry and eager to impress their higher-ups. He must have done something to piss off the Dark Lord, said Tomas. Can it be because Connors killed someone the Dark Lord cherished? Asked Mutrad with an amused smile. It can be, answered Cassandra. Jack Nerian, a disciple of the Sunrise sect who murdered by a mysterious bandit group near their sect. This is funny because there was no bandit camp near their sect at that time. Connors killed Jack, and as a result, he was tortured to death by the Dark Lord. All things being equal, the simplest is often the right one. The Dark Lord arrived after Ghost. Jane Totonk had a quarrel with Ghost and died. Connors, who killed Jack, disappeared and was tortured to death. The common thing between all these is Ghost. The latest underscores are on the website. But Lord Mutrad, Ghost was in the Nether Realm when Jane was killed? He even took the truth pill and proved his innocence. Leto raised his thought. He didn't kill doesn't mean he was innocent. In the southern continent, the Black One is seen with a woman. And guess what? Ghost also has a fiancée who didn't go to the Nether Realm. She must have sneaked into Totonk Manor and killed her, Mutrad explained. So you're saying Ghost is the Dark Lord? Cassandra asked. Yes, said Mutrad. Then what about Noah? Asked Tomas. There is a little chance Noah might be the Dark Lord. However, I am certain this guy has some sort of connection with the Dark Lord, Mutrad said. Although Mutrad didn't have enough facts to connect Noah to the Dark Lord, his gut feeling said Noah was somehow related to the Dark Lord. Now all he needed was to follow Ghost and prove him guilty. But he wasn't going to chase down the Dark Lord as Tanulia did. The Dark Lord might be the trinkets criminal Mutrad had chased because all Mutrad had was theories, not evidence. Without solid evidence, he wouldn't be able to deploy all the resources at his disposal. A small mistake could result in a calamity for the Arctic Hall. Unlike the Guardians, the higher-ups of the House of Halrid warned everyone about the Dark Lord and the threat he posed to the entire world. As a result, Mutrad was strictly ordered to investigate with utmost caution. I chose to share everything because of the same reason why Peyton chose you in the first. You three are the most power-hungry humans in the guild. You want to prove you're worth something. From now on, you three will work directly for me. As your reward for working for me, you will be placed directly under the Alpha Guardian of your choice, surpassing the position of Guardian Captain. The offer was beyond their expectation. Their eyes glistened, sparkling with excitement. Each of them would have done anything if Mutrad offered them a position of Guardian Captain, let alone a position under the Alpha Guardian of their choice. Being placed directly under an Alpha Guardian meant one thing: they could become the next Alpha Guardian one day. My sword is yours, Lord Mutrad. Cassandra was the first one to kneel down with her hands on her chest. Currently, Cassandra was tasked to monitor the nobles in Azair, which she considered a waste of time. She spent most of her time following nobles, watching them drink, harass people, and commit all sorts of heinous crimes. Guardian Captain Gerard gave her some of the worst tasks in the guild instead of tasks that could solidify her chance to become a Guardian Captain. Since Cassandra wasn't from a prominent noble family, she had to put up with Guardian Captain with the hope that someday her luck would turn. After hearing Mutrad, she had a feeling this was her way to get to the top of the hierarchy. Moreover, this wasn't an off-the-books operation. Therefore, each of them must be given some sort of reward. And a man like Mutrad didn't have a need to give them a fake promise. I'll be an honor to work for you, Lord Mutrad. Leto dropped to one knee and lowered his head like a loyal soldier. If someone made a list of the most racist people in the Guardian Guild, Leto would be in the top 10. He literally killed countless beastmen just because they weren't humans. His family was one of the biggest slave traders in Azair. Yet his racism went out of the window before a golden opportunity presented by Mutrad. He bent his knee to Mutrad, a sea folk, without a second of hesitation. The latest underscores are on the website. Unlike Cassandra, Leto didn't hate the task given to him by Gerard. On the contrary, he loved his task of destroying goblin nests throughout Elon. Since his family was in the slavery business, he captured all the goblins along with any other non-human races and sold them to nobles for a hefty price. The weak goblins were the perfect replacement for dummies to test spells and attacks. In fact, Many nobles preferred live targets such as goblins and weak beast men over dummies. His family supplied thousands of goblins and beast men every year. Of course, the Guardians knew about this but didn't care less about the goblins or the beast men. If Leto could become the next Alpha Guardian or even a Guardian Captain, he could use the connection and authority to send several teams just to capture non-humans. In other words, he could treat the Guardians like adventurers. The only difference was Leto wouldn't have to pay the Guardians. "I am yours to command, Lord Mutrad." Finally, Tomas knelt down with his hand on his chest, like Cassandra. If Leto's family profited by trading in slaves, Tomas' family was in the business of mining and real estate. Even as a low-level guardian, Tomas used his status to force hundreds of commoners out of their lands. If a commoner decided to file a complaint against him or his family, they would simply disappear. Toman's family owned at least one mine in every kingdom in Azair. Suppose Toman became a guardian captain, his family would own almost all the mines. They would be also able to expand their business to Elon at that time finally. Putting the three of them to catch the Dark Lord was ironic. The three of them committed more crimes than the Dark Lord ever did. Good, Mutrad nodded. He knew the history of every single of them. To be honest, he couldn't care less who they were and what they did. Instead, all he cared about was catching the Dark Lord and killing him once and for all. "Rise," Mutrad said. He then turned around to look at the ghost's portrait on the whiteboard. The Guardians should have given Peyton more resources and protection. She almost cracked the case. Mutrad admired Peyton. He almost felt pity for Peyton. Given more time, resources, and protection, Mutrad had no doubt she would have proved Ghost as the Dark Lord. If she weren't getting close to the Dark Lord, he would have let the Guardians continue their goose chase. But, instead, he went to such lengths and took risks to kill Peyton and destroy Tenulia's warship, calmly said Mutrad. Just to be safe and create a controlled environment for his investigation, Mutrad hired Reapers to kill everyone on the suspect list. The Reapers killed everyone except one, Ghost. Now that Mutrad picked Ghost as his target, he would dissect everything about Ghost. Several moments later, Mutrad turned around and issued his first orders to each of them. Visits. For the best no_vel_ed_ng experience, Cassandra, the Sunrise sect is hiring teachers. Get the job. Mutrad handed over a golden parchment to Cassandra. He then turned his gaze to Leto. Get your family to become one of Ghost's biggest customers of Majestic. When the time comes, represent your family and meet him. As you wish, my lord, Leto bowed. Tomas. Mutrad looked at Tomas. You're to leave for the southern continent and establish yourself as a pirate under Pirate Lord Corey. Take this. With a flick of his wrist, Mutrad took out another golden parchment from his space ring before handing it over to Tomas. The latter opened it to see the map of Giselle and a cross. You will meet my contact there. He will give you all the necessary tools to survive. After issuing orders to them, Mutrad gazed at them. If you have any issue, you can back out now. As Mutrad expected, none of them dared to open their mouths. Visits. For a better user experience, remember, under no circumstances you're to approach Ghost or the Black One in the southern continent. The last time Guardians underestimated him, he played you for a fool, destroyed your headquarters, and killed one of your best. Unlike Tenulia, Mutrad didn't dare to underestimate Ghost. Until Mutrad was sure Ghost had no way to escape, he wouldn't make a move against him. There were still too many things he didn't know about Ghost. In fact, none of the Guardians had any idea what he was capable of. Without knowing every aspect of his power, he wouldn't be able to catch the Dark Lord. Moreover, if a single word of what I said went out, I will wipe you and your family out of this world. Trust me when I say this, I don't make threats. I make promises. Mutrad's voice became colder to the point the three of them felt shivers running through their spines. His eyes glimmered as they could see the murderous intent in Mutrad's eyes. Because Elon and Azair were still affected by Hydra's cry, no one was able to see Mutrad's cultivation level. They would be startled by his fusion stage level 10 cultivation if they could. We wouldn't dare, Lord Mutrad, Cassandra sternly said. Now leave. Make sure no one follows you, Mutrad said and waved his hand as the whiteboard disappeared from the hall. Afterward, Mutrad left the manor before the three. He wanted to meet his elders and get their blessings in the crystal ocean before officially starting his case. Do you really think Ghost is the Dark Lord? After Mutrad left the manor, Leto asked the other two. What he said made sense to me. But I didn't get why he feel Noah had something to do with the Dark Lord, Tomas answered. Whatever it is, I am pretty sure we will figure it out soon. I heard the seal folks are smarter than us. Now I know it's true, Cassandra admired Mutrad. He has more resources and authority than Peyton or we ever had. Do you think Guardian Captain Gerard would let us do anything without a pile of paperwork and shit like that? Leto complained. Speaking of Guardian Captain Gerard, rumor is that he stopped cultivating and starting to drink too much ever since Peyton died? What's the story with that, huh? Cassandra asked. The latest underscores are on website. Don't you know? He was in love with Peyton. One of my servants saw both of them together in Ruby Cuisine one day in Thusia, said Tomas. Oh shit. So he was in love with her. Now I know why he agreed to Peyton to start the off-the-book operation in the first place. She was his sweetheart, chuckled Cassandra. That's not all. After her death, he was drinking and blaming Noah for her death at Nightshade one day. I don't know the full story, but we can expect Gerard to go against Noah soon. Chapter 607. A celestial being back in the Shadow Realm. The dark sky split open suddenly. A vortex appeared out of nowhere and swirled rapidly in the sky. This wasn't anywhere close to where Michael was earlier. Instead, the vortex appeared on the other end of the dungeon, where the vampires and the skinless creatures emerged from the Queen's homeworld. The walls had countless holes from where the skinless creatures crawled out to see the vortex in the sky. The skinless creatures hissed at the vortex while the vampires materialized out of thin air. Unlike the vampires Michael fought, these were monstrous creatures. Each of them stood 7 to 8 feet tall, with shark-like teeth, and covered themselves with robes made of solidified blood. As soon as the skinless creatures noticed the vampires, they stopped hissing to kneel down. Although the vampires had their faces covered, one could see a tinge of fear in their red eyes. For some reason, the vampires shuddered to look at the vortex. They could all feel a tremendous power coming through the vortex. He is coming. Suddenly, the demonic voice of the Queen resonated in the area. Her furious shout made the vampires drop to their knees. Afterward, a silhouette of a woman gradually formed near the vortex. The Queen! Our goddess! The vampires raised their hands and prayed in their own language at the silhouette. The black smoke was almost finished forming the silhouette when a shock wave appeared from the vortex and blasted away the silhouette. After the silhouette faded into thin air, a loud bark echoed through the dungeon walls. As soon as the vampires heard the bark, they trembled. The bark contained enough force to melt down a few skinless creatures like wax statues. The skinless creatures hissed violently as the vampires bore their teeth, revealing their long bloody fangs. They were all poised to attack whatever comes out of the vortex. The amount of pressure coming out of the vortex nearly crushed the skinless creatures and the vampires. So I am back to this hellhole? Following the bark, a calm voice resonated from the vortex. The vampires and the skinless creatures took a step back, sensing the pulsing energy in the air. They even shivered. As they backed away, a figure dressed in black stepped out of the vortex. As a result, the vortex gradually faded away. The figure who walked out of the vortex gazed at the skinless creatures and the vampires on the ground. Just like Michael, he was also dressed in full black. However, the man's armor had several metal plates around the shoulder and chest, giving him extra protection as well as adding elegance to the dark armor. In addition, he also wore a cape and a hood to cover his head. Hisses. The skinless creatures roared, jumping up and down vigorously in anger. On the other hand, the vampires began to float. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. Looking at the vampires approaching him, he slowly removed the dark hood covering his face. If Michael were here, he would be surprised or even startled to see him. He was none other than Michael's fellow Earthling, Hunter Blade. He was dealing with a group of traitors when the Shadow Realm sucked him from his castle. Considering Hunter had visited the Shadow Realm couple of times, the Shadow Realm didn't shock him much. Everything looked familiar to Hunter, even the vampires. Upon seeing the vampires, Hunter grinned. He had no fear whatsoever of the vampires. In fact, he looked amused to see the vampires approaching him, knowing nothing about the extent of his powers. This version of the Hunter visited the Shadow Realm once, so he was familiar with the setting and everything. The only question Hunter had was where he would go from the Shadow Realm this time. The last time he visited the Shadow Realm to harvest experience points, Dawn's universe sucked him in, and he almost wiped out Dawn's enemies for him. True vampires. Hunter devilishly grinned at the vampires. In his universe, he came across the vampires a couple of times. In his world, he called these vampires true vampires because they were pure breeds. They were born and grew up in the Queen's world before coming to the Shadow Realm. Is that Queen bitch still around? Hunter asked, folding his arms. He pretended to search for the Queen. The vampires roared after they heard Hunter. Although they lacked the ability to communicate in the Shadow Realm, they could understand any language. Hence, they knew what Hunter had just said. Hearing him disrespect their queen made their blood boil. They didn't even try to gauge Hunter's power in their anger. Instead, they blindly dashed at him in the air. Stupid as always, Hunter snickered. Then, while the three true vampires were dashing at him, Hunter calmly flicked his wrist as a whip made of pure red energy materialized in his hand. Hunter just waved the whip in a circular shape, cleaving all their heads in a blink of an eye. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a level 85 Sentinel Stage True Vampire. The reward is 750,000 experience points and 10,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a level 86 Sentinel Stage True Vampire. The reward is 800,000 experience points and 20,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a level 87 Sentinel Stage True Vampire. The reward is 850,000 experience points and 40,000 badass points. So weak, Hunter disappointedly shook his head. The number of experience points he received was so underwhelming. But again, Hunter didn't expect too much from the weaklings. To be honest, he almost wished he appeared in the darkest corners of the Shadow Realm where the most powerful beings under the Queen's command reside. If they were all in Michael's world, the true vampires would be at half-immortal stage, and Hunter would be at celestial stage. The celestial stage was the highest stage one could have in the mortal world. After reaching the celestial stage, they would ascend to the upper realms. So suppose Hunter went to Michael's world, there would be no one to stop him except the Sky Hall. Even the Council of Immortals would be as weak as ants in front of Hunter at the moment. After cleaving 3 heads, the energy whip radiated a low-pitched whistling sound. It craved more blood. For now, Hunter chose to ignore his weapon. System, why am I here? Find me a way out, Hunter ordered his system. The system requires 3 million badass points to complete the task. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Take it? Hunter said like 3 million points were nothing to him. In fact, he was at the point he could earn 3 million badass points in a day. His criminal empire rewarded him with passive income enough for him to literally do anything. But even then, Hunter craved more power and more points. After all, Hunter still had powerful enemies to deal with in his universe. Therefore, coming to the Shadow Realm was like a nice vacation for him. Seeing the headless bodies hitting the ground, the 6 remaining true vampires roared. Where is that bitch anyways? Hunter antagonized the true vampires once again to rile them up. Otherwise, they might use their brains and form a strategy to fight him. This way, they would be furious and jump straight into battle without any plans in their minds. As far as his experience with the true vampires went, they were not mindless idiots. Before he came up with a way to destroy them, the true vampires were one of the most formidable opponents in his world. Hunter may be powerful, but he never underestimated his enemies. That was how he survived to this date. Jia. The true vampires stomped the ground and shot towards Hunter at the speed of a lightning flash. However, in Hunter's perspective, they moved as slow as a sloth. This time, he flicked the whip's hilt as the energy whip transformed into a scythe. The blade glimmered in crimson red as though it was forged with ruby, and the hilt looked metal black. With the scythe in his hand, Hunter resembled a reaper. Hunter just swung the scythe, cutting the vampires in halves from their hips. The blood gushed out as 6 halves slowly fell to the ground. The vampires didn't even realize how they died. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a level 85 Sentinel Stage True Vampire. The reward is 750,000 experience points and 10,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a level 86 Sentinel Stage True Vampire. The reward is 800,000 experience points and 20,000 badass points. Hunter ignored the system notifications ringing in his head. Instead, he looked down on the army of skinless creatures crawling out of their holes. Let's have some fun, Hunter smirked as the scythe disappeared from his hand. Upon seeing the skinless creatures roaring and growling at him, Hunter simply snapped. Although it was a simple snap, the entire dungeon trembled violently. Afterward, a bright light appeared in the sky directly above them. The skinless creatures closed their eyes due to its brightness, but soon, what started as an orb of light grew big enough to make Hunter look puny near it. In a blink of an eye, Hunter created a meteor to drop it on the skinless creatures. At this point, I just feel pity for them, Hunter devilishly grinned, contrary to his words. The next moment he snapped again as the meteor soared through the air and landed in the middle, creating a massive mushroom cloud. The impact could be compared to a mini nuclear bomb. The system has completed its task. When the host is ready, the system can teleport the host out of the Shadow Realm. I am ready. Hunter didn't even bother to stay in the Shadow Realm to see the skinless creatures burnt to ashes. Instead, he wanted to get out of here to see where he would go next. It would be nice to see Ghost again. Hunter smirked as a bright light enveloped him. Chapter 608. Hunter and Ghost meet again after the meteor hit the dungeon. Everything within a 15-meter radius burnt to the crisp. Even the walls that stood the test against time for thousands of years crumbled down in a few moments. Seeing the huge crater on the ground, Hunter smiled with satisfaction. The light shrouded him for a couple of moments before fading away from the Shadow Realm along with Hunter. When the bright light covering his vision disappeared, Hunter was hovering in the sky above a forest stretched far to the horizon. The storm clouds grew darker by the second, indicating the approaching storm. The ominous sound of thunderclaps and the howling wind pushed Hunter to find shelter before the storm. Hunter looked around to locate any villages or cities, yet there was nothing but green forest as far as he could see. Warning! Warning! One of the Queen's generals has woken up by your presence. Utmost caution required. Hunter creased his brows. The last time Hunter fought a general, they destroyed an entire pocket dimension. He also entered a coma state because the general damaged his soul and body a little bit too much. He would have died that day if it wasn't for the system. Although he killed the general at the end of the day, Hunter didn't want to go through a battle such as that again in a different universe where the energy rules may differ from his. Can you sense how powerful this general is? Hunter asked. You have a 50% chance to defeat if you use all your powers, the system said. Unlike Michael's system, which still had a tinge of mechanical sound, Hunter's system sounded completely like a serious woman. That means I have a 50% chance to die. Fuck that. It's a problem for the people who live here, Hunter said. He was a man who wouldn't do anything unless he could get something in return. He was building a criminal empire based on the soul principle. Fighting a general would not only give him nothing but also endanger his life. Besides, Hunter knew if he started a fight with a general, most probably every single powerhouse in this universe would arrive at the scene. At that time, his secret of being another worlder might be exposed. So you're going to ignore the badass points and experience you would get by slaying the general? The system asked, almost sounding mad at Hunter for being overly cautious. Yes, Hunter simply said. He valued his life more than the badass and experience points. After all, no amount of points would save him if the general killed him. Afterward, Hunter picked a random direction and flew in that direction. Hunter was flying in peace when his body trembled due to the sudden thunderous roar that resonated in the area. Even though he was in the air, his body shivered as though the roar had shaken the sky itself. Ja! Fuck, Hunter cursed. Since he had fought a general before, he instantly recognized the roar. We have to find out why we are here as soon as possible, Hunter creased his brows. Every time the Shadow Realm sucked him out of his universe and spat him into another, he had to complete certain tasks. Even the system had no control over traversing throughout universes. Therefore, he knew that until he found out the reason why he was in this universe, he wouldn't be able to return to his world. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed, he closed his eyes for a second as two majestic wings spread out from his back. The wings were enveloped in crimson-red flames, almost making them look like they were made of fire. With a single flap of his wings, he flew forward at speed closer to the speed of sound, leaving a fiery trail behind him in the sky. After flying for a couple of minutes, Hunter noticed a bolt of lightning shooting towards the sky from the ground. Hunter rubbed his chin before flapping his wings once again. Instead of flying away from Hunter, he noticed the golden lightning bolt approaching him. In a few blinks of an eye, Hunter and the lightning bolt met in midair. Hunter! Hunter heard a familiar voice calling by his name. Soon, the lightning bolt turned into a black-robed youngster. Ghost, Hunter grinned, looking at his fellow Earthling. Gradually, the flaming wings faded away out of existence. What the hell are you doing here? Michael asked Hunter. After exiting the ruined castle, Michael stepped into the forest when he suddenly felt a strong surge of power in the distance. To his surprise, the system urged Michael to locate the power source. He was about to leave the castle when Michael heard the thunderous roar that made the castle completely collapse. He followed the roar's direction but never expected to find Hunter Blade in the middle of the sky in a million years. However, due to Michael's recent visit to Hunter's universe, he could tell this time Hunter was the one who must have traveled to another universe. You tell me. The Shadow Realm sucked me from an important meeting and spat me here. And that shout I heard a moment ago, it's fucking General of the Queen, damn it, Hunter saw Ghost rubbing his temples. Hunter quickly tried to peek at how powerful Ghost was in his own universe, but surprisingly, Hunter was unable to see Ghost's power level. So, as his next resort, he tried to summon the system, only to realize the system had entered into an offline state for some reason. You've gone offline now? Fuck you, system, Hunter cursed inside. Why do I have this feeling your appearance is somehow connected to the Hydra waking up? Michael asked Hunter. It probably is. If you're lucky, you guys might have a day or two before the general leaves its tomb, said Hunter. For a few moments, Michael remained silent, thinking of a way to deal with the Hydra. He might be at the fusion stage, but according to the system, he had no chance against it until he reached the half-immortal stage. Luckily, with the skill Michael bought in the Shadow Realm to convert the cultivation stages to match the cultivation stage in his world, he was able to tell Hunter was stronger than a half-immortal. If I could use Hunter to deal with the Hydra, I might survive this without destroying this world, Michael thought to himself. Ghost. Suddenly, Michael heard the voice of Cain. The last time Michael heard from Azazel, he said Vidora was in seclusion. It seemed like they had to come out because of the Hydra's shout. Give me a sec, Michael said to Hunter and flew a couple of meters away from Hunter. The Hydra. It's calling us? What do you mean calling you? Michael furrowed his brows. He wants us to meet him. Otherwise, he's saying he will destroy this world. We have 6 hours to meet him in the Stormville Mountain, said Cain. What do we do? Iag asked Michael. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed, we have no choice, said Michael. If the Hydra comes out of Stormville Mountain, it would definitely destroy the world Michael has been trying to control. He had put so much effort just to let a Hydra destroy it. Although he could just stand by and watch the Hydra destroy everything, including his enemies, there wouldn't be much left of the world after it was done. Besides, it would most certainly enslave him or just kill him. Therefore, Michael chose to go meet the Hydra instead of waiting for it to kill him. He wouldn't have come to this conclusion so quickly if it wasn't for Hunter. "They'll be there in a few minutes. Get ready to meet the Hydra," Michael said. Then he turned around to see Hunter. "I assume you have a plan to stop the general?" asked Hunter. "Might be." Seeing Ghost dragging his words, Hunter knew his plan must have something to do with him. "But you need my help. Am I right?" Hunter sighed. It was Michael's bad luck that he had to ask for Hunter's help. But again, it was no one's fault that the Shadow Realm teleported Hunter to his universe, which caused the Hydra to wake up. If Michael had to blame someone, he should blame the Queen for creating such an abomination and putting it in his universe. Remember, you can't leave this universe until you complete the task given to you by the Shadow Realm. Hunter's system chose to come out of its offline status for a moment to instruct Hunter. Also, if the general wanted you dead, it would have started a battle as soon as you entered this universe. "So quit being a pussy and be a badass," says the one who went offline. Hunter ridiculed the system but received no response from it. Since the system itself urged him to face the general, Hunter decided to trust Ghost's plan. After all, he was the #1 assassin back on Earth. So Hunter was positive Ghost could come up with a plan that would include not dying. "So what's the plan?" Hunter asked Michael. "Well, since we are both familiar with traveling to another universe, we know you can't get out of here until you get your task done." "No shit," said Hunter. "It's safe to say the Hydra has something to do with your task. So, why don't we go meet it in person?" But as soon as Hunter heard Michael, he was taken aback by surprise. He furrowed his brows. "You want to go meet the general? That's your plan?" Michael nodded as Hunter let out a heavy sigh. "Tell me you have a backup plan," asked Hunter. Michael looked at Hunter and smiled. Although Hunter looked like he was following Michael's plan, he had a plan of his own in case Michael's plan failed. After all, Hunter built a powerful criminal empire from scratch on his own. He was not stupid to follow Michael into the Hydra's den just because Michael was from Earth. On the other hand, Michael also knew Hunter must have another plan of his own. Simply put, they were using each other to finish their own tasks. Chapter 609. Meeting the Terrifying Hydra. Meeting the Terrifying Hydra. Hunter and Michael flew towards the Stormville Mountain in silence. When they saw the mountain on the horizon, Michael halted his flying. "Wait a moment," Michael said. Hunter just nodded as Michael disappeared from his sight. "Teleportation," Hunter muttered. While he was waiting for Ghost to return, he stared at the ominous mountain on the horizon. The mountain reminded Hunter of Mount Doom in Lord of the Rings movies. The storm clouds and flashes of lightning decorated the mountain. Stormville Mountain. A fitting name, Hunter nodded. Although he was floating far away from the mountain, he could feel the terrifying energy coming from within the mountain. He didn't like the mountain or the general residing within at all. However, Hunter had no choice. He had to deal with the general if he wanted to return to his world. Hopefully, Ghost's plan would work and avoid any calamities. Several moments later, Hunter sensed the space around him distort again. Out of the blue, Ghost appeared before him again. This time, he appeared with a 3-headed Hydra in his hand. To Hunter's surprise, he felt the same energy as the general from the little Hydra. "Fuck!" Ayag's eyes went wide when she saw Hunter. Compared to Ghost, the new guy's energy radiations were on another level. They could tell he was most certainly stronger than any fusion stage cultivation. Nonetheless, they had no idea Hunter was at the celestial stage, above half immortal and immortal stage. "Kane, Sarba, Ayag, meet Hunter." Michael introduced Hunter to Vidora. "Why do I sense a different kind of energy coming from you?" Sarba asked. "Let's deal with the Hydra first. Then, we can get acquainted," Michael interjected Vidora before they could nag Hunter. Hunter grinned at the 3 heads before following behind Ghost. The closer he got to the mountain, the denser the energy in the air became. Of course, he would be lying if he said he wasn't terrified of the general. And he was positive Ghost was also feeling the same. But for now, Hunter shoved any fear he had to the back of his mind and landed on the cave's mouth, leading to the mountain's center. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed after telling Hunter to wait, Michael didn't directly go to the dark forest to pick up Vidora. Instead, he teleported to Stormville Mountain so he could clear all the undead mining the mountain. Since Maxine was preparing for Heinberg's funeral, no one was in Stormville Mountain except them. Following Ghost, Hunter entered the dark cave. On his way to the center, Hunter noticed several mining tools, footsteps as well as a few glowing crystals glowing from the walls. He could sense weird energy pulsating from the crystals, but he couldn't identify them. Of course, Hunter would have paid the system to learn about the crystal's origins if the system hadn't gone offline. For now, Hunter guessed these energy crystals may have contained the energy of this world. Luckily for them, the glowing blue crystals lit their path. After walking for several minutes, Hunter stepped into a spacious hall where he saw a huge red cross on a wall at the hall's end. Additionally, the words "Do not come near" were engraved onto the stone wall. "He knows we are here," Hunter saw the gray head in the middle declare. "You could talk to a general?" Hunter asked in surprise. "Not to any general but a Hydra," Michael answered instead of Vidora. "So you named them after King Ghidorah, huh?" Hunter smirked. As a fellow Earthling, the name Vidora sounded familiar to Hunter. "I heard you named your dog Dogzilla," Michael chuckled, just to lighten the mood a bit while walking towards the cross. Hunter was about to ask Michael something when Michael placed his hand on the wall before them. Afterward, he plunged his head into the wall, slowly sliding the wall open to reveal a crack behind. As soon as Hunter saw the crack, he felt a hot gush of air, forcing him to take a few steps back. Moreover, Hunter heard a loud breathing sound. "This is it," Michael took a deep breath. For a few moments, his mind went black. He wondered what might be the reason for the Hydra to summon them here. Besides, Michael hated the connection between Vidora and the Hydra. If the Hydra could communicate with Vidora anytime, it might mess up with Vidora one day. After all, Vidora was still little and weak compared to the Hydra. Hunter, on the other hand, focused more on his well-being rather than on anyone else's. As far as he was concerned, all he wanted was to get out here alive and return to his world. As Ghost squeezed through the crack, Hunter thought about destroying the Shadow Realm once and for all. No Shadow Realm, no sucking him into another universe. Hunter heard a rhythmic growling coming from the other side. They all felt like they had entered into a storm. But after they stepped out of the crack, everything became dead silent. Hunter and Michael walked to the edge and stared into the abyss below. Without their control, their heartbeat rapidly increased. As far as they could see, there was nothing but darkness below. Suddenly, they saw 4 pairs of crimson-red glow in the darkness. Michael and Hunter almost jumped back in shock. They tried to take a step back from the edge. Except when they were about to, an invisible force pushed them into the abyss from behind. "Fuck!" Ayag screamed as loud as she could. They continued to fall deeper and deeper. Shockingly, both Michael and Hunter lost their cultivation power. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed system. Hunter screamed at the system in his mind, just as Michael did. Yet, both of their badass systems went offline instead of providing them with support. "We are still falling," said Michael. "Hunter, are you there?" Michael asked to make sure Hunter was with him. "Yeah. I better not die here, Ghost," Hunter growled. He was starting to enjoy his life as a crime lord back in his world. He would hate to die just when his life was getting better and better. Usually, Hunter liked the thrill of hunting a stronger predator. Whereas the Hydra wasn't a mere predator, they could hunt. Rather, the Hydra was a world-ending calamity. "We want," Michael said, although he was losing confidence. Without cultivation power, they stood no chance before the Hydra. After falling continuously for another 5 minutes, they finally hit the ground. Fortunately, something soft cushioned their fall, saving their bones, and Michael's chest cushioned Vidora's fall. "Arg," Michael growled as he slowly stood up. The pitch-black darkness around him prevented him from seeing anything. He heard another growl, probably belonging to Hunter. For a few moments, the eerie silence sent chills through their shivers. Michael listened to the surroundings closer, expecting the Hydra to show up any second. Otherworldlers, all of a sudden, a thunderous voice resonated around them. The ground literally began to tremble as a dim crimson-red light lit the abyss. In the red glow, they saw a massive object that looked like a metal tower. It took Michael a few seconds to realize that it wasn't a metal tower but a nail. While in utter shock, Michael saw Hunter slowly making his way to his side and joined him, looking upwards. Their necks began to hurt, but they simply couldn't see the Hydra's head. Instead, they could only see giant scales. If Michael had to guess, he would say the Hydra stood at least 250 meters tall with a wingspan of 150 meters. In the dim crimson light radiated by the Hydra's eyes, they saw the metallic black scales and red wings. This Hydra made King Ghidorah look like a puppy in Michael's eyes. It's huge. Hunter's jaw dropped several inches, his eyes widened, and several beads of sweat formed on his forehead upon seeing a small glimpse of the Hydra. "You have something that belongs to me." The Hydra's voice sounded louder than a thunderclap. Unfortunately, it was difficult for both Michael and Hunter to decode the words, as the words coming out of the Hydra's mouth were simply too horrifying. Initially, Michael imagined he might meet the Hydra face to face. Although he knew it was huge, he had never expected the Hydra to exceed his imagination by several folds. The size of the Hydra itself scared the hell out of Michael. Still, he hadn't seen the full form of the Hydra, but what he saw was enough to make his legs tremble. On the other hand, Ghidorah was speechless, just like Hunter. The Hydra was beyond any cultivation stages. To be honest, Hunter didn't think they could take on the Hydra even with their cultivation power. If the Hydra wanted, it could crush them with its toe. Now Michael realized how a single Hydra could make an entire continent void of any arch energy. Without any spell or energy attack, the Hydra could destroy cities just by walking through them. Swallowing the fear in his heart, Michael tried to gauge Hydra's cultivation stage. Yet no matter how hard he tried, he simply couldn't. How could he sense the Hydra's power when the Hydra was beyond any cultivation stages in Michael's universe? It took a moment for him to realize the Hydra didn't belong to this world or his universe. What? Michael tried to talk, but no words came out of his mouth. So he cleared his throat before speaking again. For the first time in his life, a lump formed in his throat due to overwhelming fear. "My lord, what do you want with us?" Michael addressed the Hydra as "my lord." He didn't dare to show any signs of disrespect towards something that could end his life within a snap of time. "I am called Mugeshiku, one of the great generals of the Queen of All." As the Hydra said, Michael and Hunter saw countless thick red lightning bolts crackling around the Hydra, lightening the abyss for a moment. The lightning bolts were bright to the point Hunter and Michael had to close their eyes. As a result, they failed to see the complete form of the Hydra. Chapter 610. A Deal with the Devil. Your kind has persisted so much. Famine, wars, and even the test of time. The Hydra calmly spoke in its growling voice. However, this voice seemed slightly different than the voice before. Since Michael knew Ghidorah and how each head had its own voice and personality, Michael could tell the voice changed because of the different heads. There were 8 crimson-red eyes, which meant unlike Ghidorah who had 3 heads, Mugeshiku had 4 heads. "Do you know why human?" Mugeshiku asked Michael and Hunter. They both felt like the Hydra's been looking at them. "No," Hunter doubtfully said. "Because your kind adapts. You know where to bow your heads and where to raise your hand." Another slightly soft voice compared to the first 2 voices. "What do you want?" Ayag raised her voice despite standing in front of a being like Mugeshiku. Unlike the rest, Ayag wasn't afraid of the Hydra. But as soon as she raised her voice, Michael and Hunter wanted to grab her and shut her mouth close. Haha. To their surprise, the Hydra burst into laughter which gave Michael and Hunter a heart attack. They dropped to the ground, curled into a ball, and twitched. Hunter and Michael desperately called out their systems to teleport away or a way to escape the abyss. "Stop!" Ayag suddenly shouted, destroying the laugh's power completely. Finally, Hunter and Michael were able to breathe. Breathing heavily, Michael and Hunter picked themselves to their feet. This is the reason my kind was wiped out from our universe. We are not adaptive. We raise our claws at the wrong being, Mugashuko said to Vidora. Wiped out? Ayag's heart skipped a beat. Although she had never said a word, Ayag missed being with her own king. Not that Ayag didn't like the life she had with Nightmare, Gaia, and Ghost, but she wanted to meet other Hydras and visit her homeworld at least once. However, after hearing the painful voice of Mugashuku, her hope trembled. You and I are the last ones of our kind. And if your human doesn't do what I ask him to do, I will be the last one of my kind. Mugashuka's voice completely took a dark turn. The threatening voice of the Hydra literally made their bodies tense. Following the sinister words, a hot stream of breath brushed past Michael and Hunter. What do you want? Ayag asked yet again. But instead of answering her question, the Hydra slightly moved its claw as a bright light shot out from above and landed on Vidora. As soon as Michael saw the light, he tried to move away, yet he failed because the light was too fast. When the bright white light disappeared, Michael and Hunter noticed a glowing rune on each head. What did you do? So many questions. Another hot air brushed past Michael and Hunter, almost burning their clothes. Thankfully, Hunter's robes were made of a special metal that protected his skin. So it could protect Hunter from a certain level of radiation and heat. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel.next.com to experience faster update speed. Well, do anything you ask of us, Hunter quickly said to Mugashuku before the Hydra decides to dispose of them. You have something I want, human. Michael saw a dim red spotlight falling on Michael. The light came from one of the Hydra's eyes. Since they couldn't look at the Hydra's head because it was too tall, Michael could only guess. Hunter felt his body being lifted up into the air. Suddenly, a strong force sucked out a silver ring on Hunter's finger. After the ring left Hunter's finger, he hit the ground with a small thud. While Hunter was standing up, Michael noticed the silver ring radiating a bright silver light. The next moment, a ball of dark energy emerged from the silver ring. What the hell is that? Hunter's eyes went wide as he felt a tremendous amount of energy from the ball of energy. There are 30 energy orbs in this universe. And this tricky thing managed to squeeze into another universe. Mugashuku sounded amused. Hunter got the ring by killing a mage and ripping off his finger. He expected the mage to have some powerful spells, but all he had was this ball of energy inside. Unfortunately, his system's level was too low to find the energy ball's origin. I found 12 including this one. It's up to you to find the rest. If you don't bring me at least one of these every year from now on, I'll come out of my slumber and destroy this world, Mugashuku said. After hearing the Hydra, Hunter sighed in relief. Finding the energy balls had become Ghost's task now. The only thing he worried about at the moment was to get out of the abyss alive. The strange power in you will help you find them. Hunter furrowed his brows, looking at the dim red light falling on Ghost. He wondered what might be this strange power within Ghost. After all, Ghost and Hunter both were oblivious to the fact they each possess a badass system. Although the two systems function similarly, they were not the same, and Hunter's ring was the only thing that connected Hunter to Ghost's universe. Now that he lost the ring, the Shadow Realm wouldn't be able to summon Hunter to Ghost's universe anymore. I will find you these, Lord Mugashuku. Michael bowed his head. We know you will. After all, you each love the world you are in right now. It'd be a shame for you to lose them. The Queen's generals are everywhere humans. We reside in every universe there is, Mugashuku said. Then, the red light falls yet again on Hunter. Even if you had killed one, there is always another one. Hunter felt a chill after hearing Mugashuku. He couldn't help to wonder if there was another general in his world. Even if that was the case, Hunter would hunt it down just like before. After all, he could always get stronger with the system. One day, he might return to this world and rip the Hydra's heads off one by one just because he felt like it. But for now, Hunter remained silent without provoking the Hydra, just like Michael. Tell us about our homeworld? Sarba mustered his courage to question the Hydra. Leave. Instead of an answer, all they got was a thunderous roar from the Hydra. This voice sounded more demonic, evil, and terrifying than all the voices before. "The fourth head," Michael muttered. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed as the roar reverberated in the abyss, they were sucked upwards by an invisible force. Michael held onto Vidora tight, flinging higher and higher. When they reached the top, they regained their cultivation power. "Phew, that's terrifying," Hunter let out a heavy breath of a sigh. In his whole life, he had never seen such terrifying creature, and he had seen a whole lot of scary creatures and killed most of them back on his world. "Now that it took my ring, I think the Shadow Realm will suck me out of here soon," Hunter said, almost sounding a bit disappointed. To be honest, Hunter would have liked to stay in this whole new world for a few more days. He wanted to see if he could get something valuable from this world and bring it to his. "Before you leave, can you do me a favor, Hunter?" Michael asked. A few moments ago when Yugashuku took Hunter's ring, Michael had thought. Since Hunter belonged to a whole new universe and the chances of him returning to this universe were pretty slim, Michael wanted to do something that could help him against the sea folks who were apparently hunting him now with the Guardians. To this moment, Michael had no idea that Mutrad marked him as the Dark Lord and started to hunt him in the shadows. However, if Michael's plan with Hunter worked, not only it would ensure his safety, but it would also prevent anyone from suspecting him of being the Dark Lord. "What's in it for me?" Hunter asked. Although Ghost and he was from the same place, it wasn't Hunter's style to do something for free. After all, if Michael's universe was bad, Hunter's was the worst. "How about this?" With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out the black metal card with a golden lion head engraved on it that Hunter gave him when he traveled to Hunter's universe first. According to the Hunter Michael met, the card would enable Hunter to visit Michael's world if a general of the Queen broke out to destroy their world and vice versa. "My calling card." Hunter remembered he gave this card to Ghost a couple of years ago. "What about it?" Hunter asked, looking at his calling card. "I will find the Hydra asked of me, so I am not in an imminent threat. But you are. So if you do me this favor, I will travel to your world and help you kill that son of a bitch instead of breaking this card right now." Hunter gave it a thought for a couple of moments before finally agreeing to help Ghost. It wasn't because of what Ghost said, rather, it was because Hunter felt curious to see what Ghost need his help with. As a criminal empire's head, Hunter followed his guts and curiosity to strengthen himself. He felt this might be such an opportunity. "What do you need?" asked Hunter while walking towards the crack in the wall. As much as he liked to hear what Ghost has to say, he didn't want to stay near the Hydra. So he quickly squeezed through the crack to leave the abyss. Michael followed Hunter behind till they reached outside. Even then, Michael waited until they were far away from the crack. Now that he had made a deal with the Hydra, Michael somewhat felt relieved. He had to find at least one energy ball a year, so he had a maximum of 18 years of time. Instead of finding them as soon as possible, Michael would do the opposite. He would use that time to get strong enough to kill the Hydra once and for all. But for now, he needed Hunter's help to deal with the Guardians and Sea Folks. They walked out of the Stormville Mountain as Vidora stayed silent the whole way. After hearing what the Hydra said about them being the last of their kind, Michael understood their concern. Bush. Michael and Hunter shot out to the sky as fast as they could. Only after the Stormville Mountain disappeared from their sight did they stop to talk. In the mid-air, Michael looked at Hunter. "I need you to kill me," said Michael. Chapter 6:11. Overpowered. Hunter hearing Ghost. Hunter was shocked. He didn't get the full meaning of Ghost's words. Fortunately, Michael explained his plan in detail. A while later, Michael and Hunter reached the outskirts of Royal Land using a teleportation scroll Michael bought from the system store. Since Hunter could disappear at any moment, Michael didn't dare to waste any time. "This armor feels weird," Hunter said, wearing Michael's Lucifer armor. Although Michael asked Hunter to wear his armor, the latter chose not to ask any questions. Instead, Hunter just hovered in the air, looking at the golden church on the horizon. Michael stared at Hunter for a few moments. The armor looked menacing and terrifying. If any weak-willed men saw the armor suddenly, there was a high possibility of them getting heart attacks. Looking at the armor's design, Hunter quickly got some ideas to enhance his own armor back in his world. Whatever you want me to do, we must do it quickly. I can feel the Shadow Realm's pull getting stronger. Hunter's voice was grave. Hit me with enough force to send me crashing onto the church. Michael cracked his neck, preparing to get hit by Hunter. With the energy radiation Michael felt from Hunter, he knew the latter was stronger than him. However, Michael didn't compare himself with Hunter. Time flew differently in each universe. The Hunter before him might have spent more time in his world, getting stronger than him. With enough time, Michael had no doubt he would become the strongest being in the universe. To do that, he needed to push away his current enemies. Just don't die, Hunter grinned. Soon, a golden light coiled around Hunter's wrist, forming the silhouettes of fire-breathing dragons. Boom! In a blink of an eye, Michael felt like he had been hit by a train. Before the brain could process everything and let him feel the pain, his body went crashing into the Holy Chich's roof. Hunter looked at the tower, crumbling down, shaking his fist. His fist went numb after hitting Ghost. It was like he hit a metal wall. Hunter wondered what kind of cultivation Ghost was doing to be that strong. Ding! 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 The holy guards who saw the tower collapsing quickly ran the bell to alert everyone. As a result, the soldiers adorned in white radiant armor rushed out of the church. They all shot to the sky from the ground like arrows to fight Hunter, who was in the Dark Lord's armor. The moment the holy guards saw Hunter, their eyes went wide behind their helmets. It wouldn't be an understatement to tell they trembled at the sight of the Dark Lord. In just a few moments, 50 holy guards surrounded Hunter. This is fun, Hunter chuckled. Abomination. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed, unholy evil. We will bring you to justice. Hunter furrowed his crease as he had never heard such cliché lines before. He wasn't hiding his energy radiation, but still, the soldiers remained without budging. The reality was the soldiers simply couldn't see Hunter's energy radiation as Michael did. Moreover, Hunter was oblivious to the fact that the Hydra's shout has robbed the cultivators of their ability to see others' cultivation levels. Hunter threw a glance at the reluctant soldiers before looking at the sky above him from the corner of his eye. He sensed sudden energy appearing above him. Interesting, said Hunter. Ghost had informed Hunter about this. He briefly explained how someone or something might appear to spy on them. To his surprise, Ghost said he wanted them to see the battle. As per Ghost's request, Hunter didn't destroy the spy even though he could have done it with a simple flick of his wrist. When Hunter returned his gaze back to the holy guards, a guard slowly moved forward with his spear pointing at Hunter. Despite being surrounded by countless soldiers, Hunter remained calm. It was a pity that the system went offline. Otherwise, Hunter would have received quite a sum of experience and badass points. Hunter calmly raised his hand, drawing a skull in the air. The skull glimmered with bright white light. Phoo! Hunter sent a blow of wind to the skull as it began to grow from palm size to a skull 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide. The skull suddenly came to life, opening its jaw. Seeing the terrifying white skull, the soldier's body went rigid. Arg! The soldier screamed as he tried to stab the skull. However, the spear went through the skull. Before the soldier could pull the spear back, the skull swallowed the soldier. As soon as the skull touched the soldier, the poor one instantly turned into a puff of smoke. Even the armor wasn't spared by the skull. That was only a low-level spell. Hunter was surprised to see how weak the soldier was. Though the reality was the soldier wasn't weak, Hunter was too strong. The power gap between Hunter and the soldier to that of the earth to the sky. After all, in this world's cultivation stage, Hunter was at the celestial stage while the soldier was only at the soul refining stage. Even if hundreds of soldiers attacked Hunter at the same time, they still wouldn't be able to harm Hunter, not even a bit. Following their fellow soldiers' sudden death, the rest trembled. The soldiers swallowed their shock and tried to attack Hunter again. They wanted to kill Hunter before he could cast another spell. Attacking Hunter before casting another spell would have worked if Hunter wasn't too damn stronger than them. Simply put, Hunter didn't even need to cast spells. Instead, he could just crush them with sheer physical strength alone. Hunter tilted his head with an amused smile on his face. He was pondering what spell he could use to kill them or just simply crush them to death as he would do to the traitors in his criminal empire. One after another, the soldiers standing behind the soldiers with spears started to cast the spells. In a few blinks of an eye, Hunter saw all kinds of shapes and symbols glowing in the clear sky. "Quiet the fireworks," Hunter said amusedly. Snap. Hunter just snapped his finger as a powerful sonic wave destroyed everyone around him, including the spellcasters. From the Holy Church's front lawn, Michael saw the bloody mist in the sky. He asked Hunter to put on a show but never expected Hunter to slay the holy guards with a single snap. "Your Holiness." Michael turned around to see His Holiness chanting something under his breath. It didn't sound like a spell but an actual prayer to his gods. Yet Michael doubted any prayer could save His Holiness if Hunter decided to take him out. As far as Michael had witnessed, Hunter could destroy the church in a few mere moments. "Your Holiness, get to safety. His target is me. You go somewhere safe." "It's too dangerous here," Michael said gravely, pretending he cares more about His Holiness than his own life. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Ghost, accept your sentence. Hunter's thunderous roar shook the church like an earthquake. It was a signal both Michael and Hunter agreed upon. Suppose Hunter felt he was going to disappear soon, Michael asked him to threaten him as loud as he could. "I will buy you some time, Your Holiness." The old man was still praying with his eyes closed. The holy guards around the old man wanted to take him away from the church to the secret bunker. However, the old man didn't budge an inch. Instead, he tried to strike down evil with his prayer. Sling. Michael unsheathed his two swords before launching himself toward Hunter. As though nature itself had terrified, the clear sky turned dark and covered by storm clouds in a few moments. Michael and Hunter met midair, preparing to put on a show. Hunter flicked his wrist as a metal rod engraved with coiling snakes appeared in Hunter's. When Hunter clasped the metal rod tight, the hilt lit up, turning itself into an energy whip. The radiant red energy pulsated energy along with a low-pitched whistling sound. At this time, Mutrad and several prominent figures in the Guardian Guild appeared near the Holy Church using teleportation. As soon as Mutrad saw Ghost fighting the Dark Lord, he creased his brows. Just yesterday Mutrad theorized that Ghost and the Dark Lord were the same people. He couldn't believe he was proven wrong. "I won't give you a quick death. Instead, I will make you suffer," Hunter gnarled. Hunter then swung the energy whip. Since Ghost asked him to put up a real show, Hunter didn't hold back. He swung the energy whip vigorously. Unlike swords, defending himself from a whip took a great effort for Michael. With swords or any other metal weapons, Michael could predict its trajectory. But with an energy whip, he was unable to, especially with Hunter's speed. Nonetheless, Michael moved his swords with speed and finesse, blocking the energy whip. Unfortunately, every time Michael blocked the energy whip with his swords, the energy whip chipped a piece away. At this point, the Guardian captains flew straight to Hunter with the sole intent to bring him down. While deflecting the energy whip, Michael looked around to see several people flying toward Hunter. He wondered where Noah was. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on Michael's side as Noah was nowhere to be found. Instead, Michael saw several men and women dashing at Hunter. Annoying flies, Hunter just waved his hand, shooting a powerful sonic wave from the tip of his fingers. Just like before, the Guardian captains along with several Guardians exploded to death. "You won't get a painless death like that, Ghost," Hunter growled, increasing the speed of his swings. One of the wings finally brushed past Michael's hand. The energy whip burnt Michael's arm, completely scorching his skin. Just as Mutrad was about to join the battle when a vortex appeared in the sky. Upon seeing the vortex in the sky, Hunter stopped swinging the energy whip. "I've been summoned," Hunter said, loud enough for everyone around them to hear him. "But before I go, I have a gift for the Holy Church." Hunter raised both his hands towards the sky as Michael felt the clouds turning darker and darker. The howling sound followed by the dark clouds was nothing but ominous. Everyone was stunned to see the sky turning darker despite the time of the day. All the clouds gathered around the vortex to create an ominous storm. The next moment, a meteor slowly emerged from the storm clouds, enveloped in fire. Looking at the gargantuan meteor above his head, Michael felt the urge to move aside from its path. "No more churches in my domain," Hunter growled. Chapter 6:12. Ghost is not the Dark Lord. The meteor appeared, bringing down thunderclaps and several flashes of lightning. Those who witnessed the Dark Lord casually creating a meteor trembled. Even the Guardian captains halted their steps. Hunter lowered his arms without uttering a word, letting the meteor loose towards the Holy Church. Despite the church being protected by several arrays and countless runes, they were unable to stop the meteor. According to Michael's world sense, the spell Hunter cast belonged to the legendary class. Even in Hunter's world, the meteor spell was a top-tier spell. Not every image had the mana to cast such a powerful spell. "Your Holiness!" The holy guards quickly surrounded the old man, forming a human chain around him. They all promptly grabbed each other's arms as their armor began to radiate bright, warm energy. In a few blinks of an eye, a light beam shot out from the sky to envelop the holy guards and the old man. Meanwhile, the meteor approached the Holy Church, creating ear-piercing thunderclaps and countless lightning cracks in the sky. The energy distortion in the atmosphere petrified everyone. Because of the spell's power, the space around them was distorted, preventing the teleportation from working. That was why the Alpha Guardians who tried to teleport to the Holy Church failed to do so. Fortunately, it worked in Michael's favor. Too many Alpha Guardians and powerful people might result in more suspicion. The meteor crashed onto the Holy Church as Michael saw the golden dome around the church flicker vigorously before finally fading away. Under the burning meteor, the church crumbled into pieces. Regardless of the pain in his arm, Michael smiled at the Holy Church's destruction. Everything within a kilometer radius was crumbled to nothing but ashes. Michael asked Hunter to put on a show but never expected Hunter to bring such destruction upon the royal land. At least, the Guardians evacuated the nobles and the people on time. Still, the meteor took many lives. The shockwave even destroyed some of the walls around King Kramer's castle. Everyone coughed and closed their eyes due to the mushroom cloud produced by the crash. The rest were tossed into the air like kites without anchors except for Michael and a few others. Michael quickly rubbed his eyes, trying to locate Hunter. Eventually, Michael was able to open his eyes to see Hunter hovering in the air. Unfortunately, due to the dust storm and the fire particles in the air, Michael could barely see Hunter. Hunter grinned, admiring the destruction he caused. A while later, he slowly turned his gaze. "Get your schedule free. I will meet you next week. It's going to be a hell of a ride," Michael smirked before flying into the vortex above him. "He took my armor," Michael growled, but after thinking about how much Hunter helped him, he couldn't help smiling inside. It's time for a new armor anyways. Michael really felt lighthearted and relieved. Not because he destroyed the Holy Church, although it was part of a reason for his delight, but because everyone witnessed Ghost fighting the Dark Lord. It would be hard to connect him to the Dark Lord now. Even though Michael had no idea that Mutrad connected Ghost to the Dark Lord, his plan completely messed up Mutrad's theory. In the battle between wits, Michael scored 1 against Mutrad. After several hours, the Guardians erupted white tents in the wasteland, which was previously the Holy Church surrounded by an alluring maple forest. Michael sat on a chair inside of the tents, waiting for someone from the Guardians to appear. A couple of holy guards and guardians, both were at the soul refining stage, stood guard on each core of the square tent, protecting Michael. Everyone believed Ghost was the Dark Lord's target, and he destroyed the Holy Church because they allied themselves with Ghost. While waiting, Michael drummed the table with his fingers. Eventually, Michael saw a blue-haired young man with a tiny fish tattoo on the center of his forehead entering the tent. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Although the youngster looked human, something about the young man made him stand out. To Michael's surprise, the young man was at the fusion stage, almost as strong as his ghost persona. Nevertheless, the Dark Lord could still crush the youngster in a few moments unless the young man possessed some sick legendary spells. "How are you feeling?" the young man asked Michael with neither a friendly nor hostile voice. "Good, I guess," Michael sighed. "Before we go further, let me introduce myself properly. I am Utrad Halrid. I am here to investigate and catch the Dark Lord before he does more damage than he already has," Mutrad said gravely. Michael was surprised by Mutrad. He thought he would meet someone from the Sea Folk but never expected their meeting would happen this soon. Regardless, Michael didn't show his surprise on his face. "I hope you succeed, Lord Mutrad." Michael nodded as though he really gave his blessing to Mutrad. In reality, Michael was imagining crushing Mutrad to a bloody pulp. In a few seconds, Michael killed Mutrad in multiple ways. "Now tell me what happened before you appeared in the royal land," Mutrad asked. "Well, I was in Thera. I went there to attend the aqua auction." Michael began to recount everything truthfully except the part where he went to catch Heinberg's killer and the part where he met Mugashiku. "I don't know where he came from. One moment I was in my room, and the next I was in the sky near the Holy Church. Did he say anything about why he chose you as his next target?" Mutrad asked. "He was saying some bullshit about me using my talents to profit instead of helping the needy," Michael said. He knew how Noah felt about him, as the latter always disliked Michael selling his potions for high prices to the nobles instead of helping the poor. So Michael decided to connect Noah with the Dark Lord as much as possible. "Where were you in Thera exactly?" "You serious? There is a plague going on there, and guess who found the cure?" Michael smirked. "I was brewing the cures when that evil bastard teleported me here. Now I have to find another portal to get to Thera again." Michael sounded genuinely mad. In fact, he was mad at Hunter. By destroying the Holy Church, he destroyed the teleportation portal. He could use the runic teleportation to get to Thera. First, however, Michael needed to go through a teleportation portal to avoid raising any suspicions. "Did you hear the Dark Lord saying he has been summoned?" Michael questioned Mutrad for a second. This chapter upload first at NovelBin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. Mutrad nodded. "Is there any chance there is another one above the Dark Lord?" Michael asked Mutrad, putting Mutrad in deep thought. No matter how hard he thought about the facts, Mutrad couldn't connect Ghost to the Dark Lord anymore. The facts simply didn't sit right with his theory of Ghost being the Dark Lord anymore. So, as a member of an advanced civilization, Mutrad infused himself with the ability to see through someone's cultivation level in Elon and Azair. Because of that, Mutrad was able to see Michael's fusion stage cultivation, and the Dark Lord was at the celestial stage. After seeing the celestial stage cultivation level, Mutrad's theories such as Ghost using puppets, slaves, and illusions to duplicate himself went out the window. No way anyone could create a celestial stage duplicate. Even among sea folks, only one celestial being existed. At least, that's what Mutrad learned from his elders. Mutrad couldn't explain or connect Ghost to the Dark Lord anymore. He was so sure about that, but now, his theory crumbled to pieces. Thus, the best thing Mutrad could do was get as much information about the Dark Lord from Ghost. If Ghost was really the Dark Lord's target, he needed their help as much as they needed his. "Maybe or maybe not," Mutrad answered nonchalantly. "Do you have any idea why he wanted to kill you in front of the Holy Church? You saw the spell he cast. If he wanted to kill you, you would have been dead." "Yeah, no shit." Michael rolled his eyes. "Didn't you hear him screaming how he wanted to torture me instead of giving me a painless death? He must have really liked to put on a show. Man, I can't wait to get back to Mazeroth. That might be the only place it'll be safe." As far as Mutrad could tell, Ghost wasn't lying. There were no signs of him lying on his face. Even the micro-reactions, his eye movement, and voice modulation were perfect, almost too perfect. Everything Mutrad saw led him to believe Ghost was not the Dark Lord. In fact, he might be the Dark Lord's target, and every fact he had previously might just be a coincidence. Unknowing to Mutrad, The confusion and chaos in his mind were visible to Michael. He had to thank Hunter for coming to his word when he did. If it wasn't for him and the overpowered spell he cast, Michael couldn't have convinced and terrified everyone at the same time. He doubted anyone would voluntarily agree to chase the Dark Lord anymore. But Michael's plan wasn't over yet. Instead, he had one last piece, a crucial piece. He entrusted his beloved Gaia to the last part of his plan. Suppose everything went according to his plan, even the Sky Hall would think twice before messing with the Dark Lord. Can I go now, Lord Mutrad? I am exhausted. If I am going to die, I want to enjoy the last moments of my life with my fiancée instead of sitting in this tent. No offense, none taken, Mutrad said, heaving a sigh of relief. Michael finally stood up. I really hope you catch that bastard Lord Mutrad. May the gods are with you on your hunt. Michael smiled at Mutrad before walking out of the tent. Now that Hunter had destroyed the portal, he had to visit Aragoth to use their portal. Fortunately, he knew Olivia. So using their portal wouldn't be a hassle. From now on, Michael could entirely focus on building his business empire as Ghost and Order of Death in the Shadows as the Dark Lord. Chapter 613. Plan to subdue the Grim Reapers. Thanks to Olivia's connection, Aragoth Academy permitted Michael to use the portal for no charge. But unlike the Holy Chuch's portal, Michael was teleported to the Sil-Alaris border. From there, Michael used the runic teleportation to reach Eve's castle. When Michael reached his room in Eve's castle, he saw Gaia on the bed covered in a golden light. She was breaking through to the soul refining stage level 3. Without making any sound, Michael sat beside her on the bed as Nightmare slowly crawled onto his lap. Michael shushed Nightmare when he was about to ask about the wound on his arm. Michael slowly removed his dark robes, letting Nightmare see the deep scar on his upper right arm. The APD healed the wound, yet it couldn't remedy the scar. Hunter's energy whip was powerful enough to leave a deep scar despite Michael's APD. Although Michael could remove the scar with some special potions, he chose not to. He considered the scars as lessons and markers of his past. While Gaia was absorbing the energy in the atmosphere, Michael put his robes on the hanger and made his way to the table. Nightmare jumped onto the oak table. She was about to leave the castle when she suddenly entered the breaking through phase. Nightmare said in a low-pitched voice, only loud enough for Michael to hear. What just happened? Where is Vidora? Nightmare asked. After seeing the scar on his arm, it was evident to Nightmare Michael went through a battle. They are in the dark forest. Nightmare noticed the slight graveness in Michael's voice. He was concerned. What happened? Nightmare asked Michael again. Michael took a deep breath, looking at the gloomy city before him. Considering there was no point in hiding what had happened from Nightmare, Michael decided to tell Nightmare everything. But just when he was about to open his mouth, sudden energy pulsated in the room. Michael and Nightmare quickly turned their heads in Gaia's direction because they sensed the energy pulse coming from her. The golden light enveloping Gaia glowed brighter and brighter to the point Nightmare and Michael closed their eyes for a moment. Moreover, they both heard a low-pitched whistling sound resonating in the room. After that, the golden light glowed brighter for another 5 minutes. During these 5 minutes, Michael and Nightmare peeked through the gap in their hands at Gaia. Eventually, the golden light slowly lost its radiance, letting Michael and Nightmare open their eyes. When they saw Gaia, she slowly opened her eyes with a grin on her face. Finally, level 3. Not bad at all. She cracked her neck, which she picked from Michael. Her grin froze when Gaia saw the deep scar on his arm. She realized the scar might be connected to what he asked her to do. Before entering the breakthrough phase, Michael asked her to spread a rumor throughout Elon and Azair. Thus, she was about to leave for the Adventurers Guild in each continent. To spread rumors, the Adventurers Guild was the best place. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. What the hell is that? Gaia jumped from the bed and made her way to him. Without even asking a question, she took out a healing potion and began to pour it onto the scar, hoping it would heal the scar. You know the Hydra in the Stormville Mountain, what of it? Nightmare asked. I had a brief terrifying meeting with him. As soon as Michael uttered these words, Gaia's body went rigid and Nightmare opened his eyes as wide as he could in utter shock. For a few moments, neither of them couldn't ask Michael anything. They were completely flabbergasted. Taking a deep breath, Michael began to recount everything that happened from the moment he went to the abandoned castle to meeting Mutrad without leaving a detail. Nightmare and Gaia listened to Michael in silence because they were too shocked to ask any question. Hearing Michael's description of the Hydra alone sent shivers running through their spines. After Michael finished telling them what had happened, Gaia couldn't know whether to be shocked or furious. On the one hand, General Quintus killed one of their subordinates. But on the other hand, Michael met the Hydra with another worlder and was given a task to find some mysterious energy balls. I will let Vidora handle Quintus. After everything that happened, they need something to take their minds off, Michael said. Yes. Gaia sympathized with Vidora, especially Ayag, who bragged about meeting her own kind and exploring her homeworld. However, after hearing that Vidora and Mugashiku were the last of their kind, Gaia couldn't help but pity Ayag. I don't know what to say, human. At least I feel relieved that you put the blame on the other worlder. Now no one will think you might be the Dark Lord. It would give us the breathing room we desperately need. Gaia paused for a moment and went on. I heard very little about the sea folk. But one thing I can tell you for sure, we must be cautious of them. They are the most powerful race in this world for a reason, Gaia said with a grave voice. It's better we stay as far as possible from them, Michael nodded. According to what he heard from Layla, sea folks had never entered into any great wars like the other races living on the land, which they sea folks named Upsiders. As a result, the sea folks had never lost powerful cultivators like the Upsiders. Layla told him several half-immortals and immortals still living among the sea folks. Michael wondered whether they were in the Council of Immortals or not. The Otherworlder, where is he now? Nightmare asked about Hunter. Returned to his world. I don't think he could ever come back to our world for quite some time. This is great because when we started a fake battle, I sensed something watching us. Did you sense his cultivation level? If he was able to kill soul refiners with a snap of his fingers, I don't think he was just a fusion stage cultivator. He must be stronger. Gaia creased her brows. Do you mean he was a half-immortal? Asked Nightmare. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. Maybe he was an immortal. Gaia couldn't believe what she was saying. The humans had never seen an immortal in 1,000 years. As per the history books Nagaland had on humans, humans had the lowest chance to reach immortality due to their lifestyles and shorter lifespans. For instance, a human at the core formation stage would live for 200 years while the other races had a typical lifespan of 400 years. Moreover, the human's cultivation was often interrupted by bottlenecks, unlike the other races. Since the Council of Immortals rarely appeared in public, only a handful of people knew about them. Something told Michael that Hunter was stronger than even an immortal. Unfortunately, Hunter's power had been suppressed after he reached this universe. Hunter's system had to turn the celestial energy into astral energy, which Hunter used to cultivate. Due to the energy conversion, Hunter was operating with a limited amount of power. Even with limited power, when Hunter cast his first spell, it created a massive ripple in the atmosphere, which freaked out the entire Council of Immortals. As Michael was speaking to Gaia, the Council of Immortals was preparing to meet the Sky Hall Elders. What if the Sky Hall sent half-immortals and immortals to chase down the Dark Lord? Nightmare asked a question that's been in Michael and Gaia's minds. They might. That's why we need to be extra cautious from now on. If we don't leave any trail, they won't be able to find us, said Michael. So what do we do next? Asked Gaia. We build our own teleporter. Michael cracked his neck. A few months ago, building a teleporter was an impossible task for him. However, with a 6-star runemaster like Eladir, he could build his own teleportation array. Although he had the runic teleportation skill, it wouldn't work when he was in a battle. So if Michael had met a stronger enemy and wanted to teleport away to escape, the runic teleportation wouldn't be of any help. However, if he had built a teleportation array and connected the array to the system, Michael knew he could teleport whenever he wanted, despite the situation. I know you're thinking of letting Eladir create the arrays, but he won't be able to build one without special materials. Where do you think we should buy them? As you said, we cannot leave any trails that could lead our enemies to us, Gaia said. I will buy them and teleport here as someone else, Michael said. Buying the materials from the system store might cost him millions of badass points, but a face mask not. So, he could simply transform into someone else, buy the needed materials from Aqua Palace or somewhere else and teleport back to the Dark Forest using runic teleportation. Gaia thought about Michael's plan for a moment before nodding. Then, she finally put her focus on Heinberg's death. Just the thought that Quintus had killed Heinberg made Gaia's blood boil. She wanted to pay him a visit and rip him apart piece by piece. I don't want to rush Vidora, but I need Quintus dead within a week. We cannot let someone who killed our subordinate live for long. It makes us look weak, Gaia growled. Why don't we go somewhere else and let our pent-up anger out? Michael asked with a devilish grin. Are you thinking what I am thinking? Gaia too grinned like a devil after hearing Michael, which confused Nightmare. What are you two talking about? With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out the golden parchment he got from the Reaper before killing the Reaper. The Grim Reaper headquarters in Ar, Michael said. It was time Michael had paid them a visit and made them pay for putting his life in danger on several occasions. If Michael left the Grim Reapers left alone, someone with enough coins would always put a bounty on his head. Therefore, Michael decided to either wipe them out or make them join the Order of Death. Chapter 614. Visiting the Reaper's Guild. When the night blanketed the forest between Sil Allery and Thara, Michael and Gaia descended through the canopy to the thicket. They navigated through the woods. They step on dried twigs and leaves, making creaking noises. Michael focused on the environmental map to see if any Reapers were around them. But to Michael's surprise, he hadn't found a soul. Michael thought it must be because the Reapers wanted to maintain secrecy. After all, having several men patrolling could expose their location. Gaia followed the map, and eventually, they reached the hills adjacent to the forests. As far as one could see, there was nothing but stone before them. It should be here somewhere. Gaia furrowed her crease, running her hand through the rough surface. Michael stood a couple of meters away from the hill under the shade of ancient banyan trees. He looked around the place to locate if there were any illusion runes near them. Yet, he found nothing, which meant there was no illusion. So, after a while, Michael summoned the system. System, scan the place to see if there are any hidden entrances. Since it was just a simple scam, the system only asked for 5,000 badass points. Afterward, a pale blue light shot out from Michael, visible only to him, searching for hidden entrances in the hill. Off-Kraus, Michael knew there was a possibility the Reaper had given him the wrong location. But he looked the Reaper in the eyes when he received the parchment. So unless the Reaper was a peerless liar, this place must be their hideout. Are you sure this map is legit? Gaia asked Michael. He stayed silent until the blue light in his sight turned jade green, spotlighting an area. The system has found an entrance protected by secret arrays and runes. Does the host wish to break them? It would cost the host 15,000 badass points. Yes, Michael said nonchalantly. The jade green light intensified as the hill spotlighted by the system trembled. Soon, it split open with a slow creak. How'd you? Never mind, Gaia was startled, but she was with him long enough not to get surprised by things like this. Before taking a step into the cave, Gaia conjured a ball of light in her hand, tossing it into the cave to not only light the cave but also detect if there were any hidden traps. Afterward, the both of them cautiously walked through the cave, expecting trouble any second. Is this place supposed to be empty? Gaia questioned after noticing the empty caves. She could understand why there were no Reapers outside, but she wondered why there were no guards inside either. I don't think so, Michael said in a husky voice. They continued to walk without triggering any traps or meeting Reapers until they reached a spacious hall lit by a crimson-red chandelier hanging from the cave top. Surprisingly, the hall seemed to have been tossed by someone else. All the tables were either broken or upside down, The quest boards were destroyed, and what could have been the counter was burnt to ashes. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. This is not what I was expecting, Gaia said. She looked around instead of moving forward. At this point, Michael realized why there were no guards on the way or any life signs detected on the environmental scanning map. Michael slowly hovered to the burnt counter. He thought the Reaper's Guild would be bigger than a simple hall. He was disappointed. What happened here? Did someone kill them all? If so, where are the bodies? Gaia questioned Michael while looking around the hall. When Michael reached the pile of ash, he found nothing. Still, he bent down to pick up a handful of ashes. Michael took out a portion from the system storage before pouring the silver liquid into the ash. Since Michael was a 5-star alchemist, he brewed many potions in his free time. This potion was one of them. He used it previously to find Jack's blood trail in the forest. If someone had burnt the Reapers, the potion would turn the ash red after absorbing the silver liquid. As Michael expected, the ash became red. So someone killed them all? But why and who? This place must have had a fusion stage Reaper. Every Reaper guild has one. Gaia furrowed her crease. On top of a fusion stage cultivator, she knew the guild would have had several soul refining stage cultivators along with powerful defense arrays and runes. If this place only had one fusion stage cultivator, he must have been the one who tried to kill me back on the floating mountain. Michael tossed the ash to the ground and dusted his hands. I killed him, leaving this place with no fusion stage Reaper. Michael hovered around to see if there were clues to figure out what had happened here. But he found none. Whoever killed them did a thorough job of erasing the evidence. We need to figure out whether this is connected to someone sending a Reaper after you or not, Gaia said. Michael nodded. If we could get our hands on some Reapers in Elon or Azer, we might get some ideas. We cannot deny the possibility this might have happened because of some internal dispute. Gaia was right. Yet Michael didn't think it was the case. He needed more concrete evidence before coming to a conclusion. But one thing was for sure, he wouldn't be bothered by the Reapers for some time. Let's go. Michael threw some spiders around the place before flying out of the cave. Suppose the killer or the killers returned to the cave, the spiders would catch them. After leaving the cave, Michael and Gaia flew higher and higher until they flew past the clouds. Then, they stopped to enjoy the starry sky. Lord Information. He might know something about this, Michael said. That elf made his living by selling information. So if someone knew about the Reaper's Guild destruction, it was him. Why waste time? Let's go there now. You can teleport us there, right? If someone asked, we could say we used some teleportation scrolls we got from some ruin. Michael agreed with Gaia. Although the scenery was too alluring, he was not in the mood to enjoy it. Instead, Michael willed the system to unequip his old Lucifer armor. Thanks to Hunter, who disappeared wearing his dark suit too, his latest armor, Michael had to wear his old one. Because of that, Michael had to forge new armor again. But this time, Michael decided to take his time and forge the armor from the materials bought from the system. To do that, Michael had to upgrade the system first, which he would do as soon as the auction was over. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. When Michael appeared behind a tavern in Sarton, it was already midnight. The streets were empty, blanketed with a tiny layer of whiteness. The snowflakes rained down upon them, making the night colder and prettier too. Since Michael and Gaia visited Lord Information a couple of times, they knew the way to Mary's Flower, where Lord Information resides. The streets were void of any light except fireflies which illuminated the road and the falling snow specks. Michael and Gaia walked the paved streets under the embrace of darkness until they saw the brightly lit Mary's Flower shop. Even at this hour, the shop was brightened by 2 street lamps and a glowing blue rub atop the roses. Clink. Michael pushed open the door, ringing a bell attached to the door. Welcome to Mary's Flowers. The same brown-haired girl from before greeted Michael and Gaia with a bright smile. Can we meet Lord Information? It's kind of an urgent matter, Michael said. Send them in. Michael heard Lord Information's voice resonate in the room. They both followed the girl to one of the glass racks filled with rose bouquets. Sliding the glass door, the girl pulled the bouquet in the center just like before. After entering the room, Michael saw Lord Information sitting behind the oak table with a tall stack of parchments. He had enough parchments to bury a grown man underneath. The candlelight illuminated the elf's fatigued face. "You traveled very fast from Royal Land to Thera and Thera to here," Lord Information surprised Michael and Gaia. To be honest, even Michael was freaked out by Lord Information's extent of reach. Michael thought he only operated in Elon and Azair. Now he realized R wasn't out of his reach either. After Michael and Gaia took their seats before Lord Information, he closed the parchment he was reading and turned his gaze towards them. "So how may I help you?" asked Lord Information. "Someone has put a bounty on my head again, Lord Information. I need to know who, and as usual, am willing to pay any price for that information," said Michael, leaning back on his chair. "We also need the Reaper's Guild locations?" asked Gaia. Lord Information had never been concerned about what his clients would do with the information provided by him. His clients valued privacy. So Gaia knew whatever she asked would strictly stay between them. "I have two kinds of information to provide you. First one, you will get for 100,000 coins. The second one will not cost you coins, but I require something else. But, of course, the second one is very valuable and might give you some answers," Lord Information said to Michael as though he was expecting Ghost to inquire about the Reaper's Guild. "It's a long day, Lord Information. So hit me straight with what you require," Michael said, deeply exhaling. With a nod, Lord Information flicked his wrist as several alchemy ingredients materialized on the table along with an old worn-out parchment. "Let me guess, you want me to refine a pill or a potion for you using these?" Michael asked, looking at all the alchemy ingredients on the table. Although it seemed like a simple task, both Michael and Gaia knew Lord Information wouldn't have asked for this instead of coins if it was an easy task. However, Michael could refine any pill or potion within a 5-star alchemist's domain. The pill requires to be concocted within 3 minutes, Master Ghost. 3 minutes? Gaia furrowed her brows. By looking at the ingredients and the parchment, Gaia was sure it was some ancient recipe that required ultimate skills. Not that she doubted Michael, but 3 minutes seemed too little. Chapter 6:15. Plan to start an assassin's guild? "You wouldn't have given me this if you didn't think I'm the right man for this task. So let me give it a shot," Michael said, confidence oozing in his tone. Ever since he became an alchemist, he had refined thousands of pills and potions. Refining pills and potions had become his second nature, as easy as breathing. When Michael was inspecting the parchment, Lord Information took a few inches tall hourglass and placed it on the table. "You ready?" Lord Information asked. Michael nodded, conjuring the emerald green flames to dance above his palm. "Your time starts now." Lord Information put the hourglass upside down, letting the sand from one side slowly rain down. Regardless of the short time he had to finish, Michael remained calm. Because the calmer he was, the more focus he could put on the task at hand. He focused like a hawk, throwing one ingredient after another into the flame. Sitting beside Michael with one leg atop another, Gaia heard the ingredients crackle in the flame. The gentle warmth from the flames blankets her like a motherly hug, protecting her from the chillness in the air. Every time she exhaled, she could see her breath. It was that cold inside the room due to the coming winter. Little by little, the sand grew taller inside the hourglass. Finally, almost half the sand had fallen down from the top when 12 dark purple beads hovered above the jade-green flames. Lord Information had seen several top alchemists in R try and fail at what Michael had just done. Bluntly speaking, the elf was terrified of Michael's ability. Even among the orcs who had a natural talent for alchemy, there was no one like the human before him. Lord Information knew with time, Ghost would become the top dog in the alchemy world. Gaia and Lord Information remained without speaking a word, fearing if they did, it might break his focus. After the beads had formed above the flames, Michael willed the flames to disappear before pulling his arms together. As though the beads were connected to his hands, they slowly pulled towards each other. The beads then gradually merged together, forming a hand-sized ball, and then condensed into a sparkling purple pill in the air. Finished in roughly 2 minutes, Michael said with a smirk. Lord Information stared at the pill while inhaling the sweet aroma coming from the pill. It turned the musty paper-smelling air aromatic. As you wanted, 90% pure pill. Now it's time to fulfill your part of the bargain, Lord Information. Lord Information examined the pill until he placed it in a wooden box cushioned with red cloth inside. After that, Lord Information opened up a drawer on the table. Michael and Gaia heard some ruffling as though the elf was rummaging through some parchments. Then, he eventually took out a parchment made of red paper. However, the elf didn't hand it over to Michael. Instead, he opened it up to read it himself. "The Grim Reapers are no more," Lord Information said nonchalantly. "What?" Gaia furrowed her crease. She could swear she had just heard the elf say the Grim Reapers are no more. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. That's right. They were all wiped out last night. If you go to their headquarters, you will find nothing but ruins, Lord Information stated. Lord Information looked up from the parchment to see Ghost's reaction. As expected, Ghost had dark lines on his forehead. "It's definitely connected. Whoever sent a Reaper after me killed the others to wipe out the evidence. But who and why?" Michael questioned himself. At least you won't have to worry about the Reapers anymore. After all, no guild, no contracts. Michael's train of thought got interrupted by Lord Information. After hearing Lord Information, Michael had no intention to go to their guild locations because he knew he wouldn't find anything. Whoever wiped them out was nothing but thorough. It would be a waste of time to go check the ruins. Lord Information hadn't built his empire by giving false or unverified information to his clients. Besides, Michael had to brew more cures for the plague instead of wasting his time. "Thank you, Lord Information." Michael stood up since he had nothing more to ask of the elf. "Here is a piece of free information, Master Ghost." Isn't all rainbows and butterflies," Lord Information said as Michael nodded before leaving the elf to his works. "What the hell was that?" Gaia exclaimed as soon as they walked out of Mary's flower shop. "The Grim Reapers are no more? I don't think it's a coincidence someone sent a fusion stage Reaper after you and the Reapers Guild suddenly got wiped out from existence." Gaia's voice was grave. "It's not," said Michael calmly. "I'm telling you, human. I have a bad feeling about this. It's like someone is stalking us." Gaia took a deep breath. Michael, on the other hand, stayed calm as always. Just making everyone think Hunter was the Dark Lord took tremendous pressure off his shoulder. Without this pressure, Michael was able to plan and see things more clearly. Whoever wiped out the Reapers did us a favor. As the elf said, now no one can put a bounty on our heads. It's a pity we couldn't swallow the Grim Reapers into our organization. But it paves the way to something greater, something I'm best at, Michael grinned. Looking at the bright grin on his face, Gaia was taken aback by surprise. His smile was like that of a kid who received a brand new toy he had wanted for a long time. The smile wiped away the worries in Gaia's heart as it always did. "You're clearly planning something. Tell me what it is?" Gaia asked. "Isn't it obvious, my dear Snakey?" Michael pinched her cheek hard enough to turn her cheeks red. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed, we are going to start our own assassin guild, Michael smirked. After finding out about the Sea Folk's arrival, Michael knew he needed to further strengthen the might of his army. He knew the nature of these cultivators. Sooner or later, they would try to control the Upsiders so they could be more powerful. As far as he was concerned, they just used the Dark Lord as an excuse to step into their world. He couldn't care less about the Sea Folk for now. However, since they were set on finding the Dark Lord, he would fight back. That was his resolve. To his glee, he received a new opportunity to increase his power. At the moment, General Quintus was walking through a dark cave. He used an oil torch to light the path in front of him. There was something odd about the cave. Quintus couldn't describe the feeling, but it was there. If he had to, he would describe the cave as a nest of evil. Even a war veteran like Quintus shivered, taking steps forward. Eventually, after walking for almost 15 minutes without any guards or weapons, Quintus reached a stone door. He took a deep breath before knocking on the stone door 3 times. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a dark room lit with red orbs on the walls. Quintus twitched his nose, trying to prevent the putrid smell in the air from entering his nostrils. He looked around to locate the master of this place. Instead, he only found steel tables with bloody knives, blood stains on the walls, and a few pieces of flesh. The place reminded Quintus of some butcher shops. Only they butchered humans instead of cattle. Quintus made a fortune sending slaves and orphans to this place. Quintus feared nothing, no war or no famine could make him shudder except his employer. Just the thought of meeting his employer gave him chills. Quintus. His body went rigid when he heard a whisper resonate in the room. "Did you finish your task?" the voice whispered again. It sounded neither of a man nor a woman. Rather, this voice was beastly. "Yes," Quintus said. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead as he shivered. He tried to turn his head, but his brain refused to obey his commands. "Good, good, good," the whisper sounded close to his ear. He could feel his neck hair stand up straight. True to his words, Quintus finished his task. "It's time you received the gift, my dear Quintus." A cold chill ran through his spine. He hardly had time to wonder when he felt a strong force pushing him onto one of the steel tables stained with blood. Arg! Quintus wiggled violently to fight the invisible force. However, the force lifted him off the ground, putting him on the table. His hands and legs went rigid as Quintus couldn't feel them anymore. In fact, he only had feelings in his eyes. Sooner, Quintus noticed red orbs flicker. "You will thank me later," the voice said. It wasn't too long before Quintus saw his mysterious employer. He didn't know the employer was a he or a she. In fact, he even doubted it was even a human. The figure that appeared in his sight had a humanoid shape, approximately 3 meters tall, and was covered in dark hooded cloaks, making them closely resemble spirits. The face was barely visible due to the cloak. Whatever Quintus saw was grayed and decayed, looking like a decomposing corpse. Its breath smelled putrid, like blood and poison. Quintus tried to move his body only to fail. Except for his eyes, he couldn't move an inch of his body. "You rattled the death's cage," the creature whispered, gliding in the air around Quintus. This meeting was supposed to be an exchange. He was supposed to show the bloody blade that took Heinberg's life and receive the said gold coins in exchange. But not in a million years Quintus thought he would end up on this torture table. "Only the gift can save you now," the figure touched Quintus with its slimy-looking grayish hand. He felt a bone-chilling coldness throughout his body when it touched his skin. "Eeg!" Quintus gasped for air as his eyes suddenly turned as white as pure snowflakes. The creature slowly glided over Quintus' head, running its cold nails through his neck. Then, suddenly, it lunged his teeth at Quintus' neck. Blood sprayed out of his neck as the creature sunk its teeth deep into his neck. His entire body started to shake. Little by little, veins popped out from Quintus' skin. In just a few moments, Quintus opened his mouth, revealing his canine tooth slowly, taking the shape of vampire fangs. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 616. Aqua Auction begins. The Aqua Palace was nearly 3,000 miles away from Ysirius, where the Voldegard Castle was located. Normally, it would take 3 to 4 days for a cultivator to reach the Aqua Palace. Since Eve was accompanying Michael with the 4 soul refining stage protectors, Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare flew to the Aqua Palace instead of simply teleporting. During these 3 days, Michael had a very peaceful life. He talked to Eve about the elves, how they operated, and the power dynamic in R. Michael brewed the cures to stockpile them whenever they stopped flying and erupted camps to rest. In order to avoid raising the Empress' attention, The rival families simply chose to ignore the Voldegards until the auction ends. Eventually, when the clouds covered the morning sun, hardly letting pass any sun rays, Michael and the rest arrived at the Aqua Palace. The people on the island gradually increased as more and more people arrived at the island by luxurious ships, airships, and simply flying like Michael. At the island, dozens of soldiers clad in metal armor along with cultivators wearing simple mage robes stood vigilantly to maintain order. Anyone who entered the city had to hand over 10,000 coins as the entry fee. Only in this way could they enter the Aqua Palace without being thrown out by the guards. The Aqua Palace didn't offer VIP cards to many but only to prestigious and powerful people. Every time an auction begins, the soldiers were informed about the VIP card holders so they could provide the utmost respect and excellent service. Because of that, the soldiers instantly recognized Eve and allowed them to fly directly to the entrance instead of walking like the rest. Although the nobles who witnessed the special treatment felt annoyed, they didn't dare to question the guards, which was equivalent to questioning the Aqua Palace itself. It wasn't an understatement to say that Aqua Palace ran the auction with an iron fist. Any hiccups to the auction would directly result in the guards' termination. Sometimes they would lose jobs and sometimes they would lose their lives. Hence, the guards watched everyone like hawks. After entering the palace, they saw glowing arrows in the air, leading the VIP guests towards their allocated rooms. A few people threw shocked glances at Eve, but she ignored everyone. Michael noticed there wasn't a single one who greeted Eve with a friendly smile. In fact, they didn't even bother to glance at Nightmare or Michael. Since Michael and the group arrived at the palace early, they didn't meet other VIP guests on their way to the second floor. Because of Eve and her connection, the auction token he received from the Alchemy Guild became a waste. Instead of using his token, he could now use Eve's VIP card to bid on the items. After taking their seats on the comfy sofas, Michael stared at the stadium outside. It reminded him of the football stadiums on the Earth. Only this was several times bigger and grander than them. They all witnessed the stadium getting filled with people rapidly in silence. Michael was actually shocked to see the thousands of nobles in one place. He knew the Aqua Palace must have earned millions just by the entry fee alone. It took the stadium an hour to get completely packed with people. The atmosphere outside was like a beehive, but inside, they didn't hear a word. The VIP rooms had special runes that filtered most of the undistinguishable chit-chatter to prove a serene environment for the VIPs. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Looking at the auction house, a sense of nostalgia hit Michael. It wasn't long ago when he visited the Phoenix Manor to attend an auction. At that time, he wasn't even a core formation cultivator. He remembered how he bought a teleportation scroll to escape Lord Julius. But now that he thought about everything, he couldn't help smiling. In just 18 months, he went from running away from an auction to getting VIP treatment from the biggest auction houses in the world. Outside the Aqua Palace, many nobles gathered outside in a long line to enter the auction house. As time went by, several luxurious airships appeared above the island. One of them was painted in crimson, red, and black. If Michael was outside, he would compare the airship with the Zeppelin. But again, he would be more furious than curious. Because the ship had the emblem of Kingdom Thusia. Several figures clad in fiery robes flew out of the Zeppelin and directly entered the palace from above. Just like Michael and his group, they followed the arrows to reach their VIP rooms. Without having an idea that his sworn enemies were sitting next to his room, Michael sat on the sofa, enjoying the orange juice offered by the Aqua Palace with Eve, Gaia, and Nightmare. At the moment, the stadium was completely packed with people, including the VIP rooms. The Aqua Palace's marketing caused the auction to be one of the biggest auctions in the last decade. Because Michael spent his time brewing potions and Gaia spent her time cultivating, they didn't know much about the items which were to appear in the auction. They would have bothered to care if they had enough coins to afford the items. But as far as they were concerned, they would be lucky to buy something in the auction for the coins they had. After all, 20 million was pocket change for the nobles and VIPs in R. How much do you think we will make by auctioning the cure? Asked Nightmare, breaking the silence in the room. 0 coins, Gaia sighed. Although they traded the cure for promotion, she still felt terrible about losing all those coins. Okay, let me rephrase my question. How much do you think our cure will go for? Asked Nightmare. 5 million. Simple. Gaia didn't even take a few seconds to think about it. She could bet on her life that the cure would go for at least 5 million gold coins. There was not a shred of doubt in her mind the nobles would buy the cure just to study it so they could mass-produce it for themselves. 5 million? I think it would go for more. Especially now the molten plague has spread to the nearby kingdoms, said Eve. Eve still was in shock at what Fylvander and his family had done to her. So, unlike Jennifer, Eve couldn't care less about a few nobles in the nearby kingdoms succumbing to the plague. To be honest, Eve's mind was a boggle as she couldn't figure out her feelings. A part of her sought revenge on the elves, but the other wanted to forgive and forget. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed because of this, she occupied her mind with other things such as training, cultivating, and of course, spending time with her new best friends. With Michael and Gaia's guidance, Eve had already begun to come up with ideas to lead the Voldegards better than her father. However, almost 60% of the remaining elders supported Jennifer, but fortunately, she rejected the offer to lead the family without a single thought. Moreover, she named Eve as the better suited to lead the family, not her. Michael was glad Jennifer didn't turn out to be yet another cringe girl who would eventually end up as his enemy. Although Jennifer disliked the idea of waiting till the molten plague spread across the continent, she didn't question Michael or Gaia. On the contrary, despite everything, Jennifer felt grateful to them. If it wasn't for Ghost, she wouldn't be alive to complain. Good, Gaia grinned. I would be more glad if the Empress herself got sick with the plague, Gaia thought to herself but didn't dare to speak these words out loud. On the other hand, Michael wondered whether the Thusians would attend the auction or not. After all, they were at war with many kingdoms at once. To this moment, he had no idea that several elders and a minister in Thusia were sitting just next door, having quite a chat with some elders. What's taking them so long? Nightmare couldn't help asking after looking at the crowded stadium. There wasn't a single seat left empty, but still, they didn't start the auction. So Nightmare wondered what was keeping the Aqua Palace from starting the auction. He particularly looked at Eve for an answer, but she had none. But when she was about to say she didn't know the reason, they all had a thunderclap resonating throughout the arena. The entire stadium became death silent following the thunderclap. They all looked around to see what was happening. Some thought the auction was about to begin, but people like Eve who attended auctions before knew it wasn't the case. A few seconds later, a bright golden light appeared from the sky and landed right in the stadium's center. The bright golden light radiated a warmth that everyone in the stadium, including Michael, felt. Because of his X-ray vision, Michael was able to see a man standing in the golden light. To Michael's surprise, the man was also a fusion stage cultivator who was just one level away from reaching the half-immortal stage. Michael slightly moved forward, focusing on the man. Whoever it was, the man loved theatrics. He could have entered the place through the VIP channel, but he chose to enter through the open space above the stadium. The man loved heroic entrances. The golden light enveloped the man for another minute or two until it gradually faded away. Only then could everyone see the man who had just arrived. "It's the Golden Prince," someone from the crowd shouted without realizing the stadium had grown silent. Chapter 617. War Gods of Ara. The elf was armed to the teeth with golden metal plates except for his head. So Michael could see the striking golden hair fluttering in the wind, blue eyes, and glowy skin. He simply waved his hand at the crowd before flying toward one of the VIP rooms. The elven prince left a golden light trail on his way to the VIP room. After the elf disappeared from his sight, Michael tilted his head to question Eve. "Who is he?" "The third prince of Gondolin," Eve said. Gondolin could be said as the capital of Ar because the Empress ruled the continent from there. Although the dwarves never recognized the Empress' authority, the dwarves avoided messing with the Empress. Because the dwarves were afraid of the princes. The 6 princes of Ar were collectively called the war gods for a reason. Each of the war gods was powerful enough to topple any kingdom that threatens Gondolin to the ground single-handedly. A war god, Gaia rolled her eyes when she heard Eve. They didn't deserve the name war god. If someone did, it was Michael. The reason why the princes were so powerful was they all had not one but several legendary spells in their arsenal. In addition, their weapons also belonged to the legendary class, which was enhanced by powerful runes. Therefore, although they were at the fusion stage, they were several times more powerful than any fusion stage cultivator. In case Michael had everything they had, he would be unstoppable. A war god? Fancy name, said Michael, making Eve quickly shut his mouth with her hand. When they heard Michael, the soul refiners' faces turned pale as a white sheet. Not a single one in Ar wasn't afraid of the war gods. Michael looked at everyone to realize he was a big deal in Ar. Don't speak ill of them. In fact, don't speak about them at all, said Eve. Why? Michael asked since he didn't know a thing about a war god. As far as he could guess, they were some kind of generals in the Empress army. He wasn't wrong though, but they were not simply generals. Each of them was a one-man army who had been protecting Gondolin for centuries. Because they could kill you and no one can do anything about it, Eve said with a grave tone which only made Michael more curious. Interesting, Michael dragged his voice. Deep down, Michael wanted to know more about this war god. Forming an alliance with a powerful figure such as the elf might benefit him in the long run. After the war god settled into his room, the people began to murmur with each other. In a few minutes, they became as loud as before. 10 minutes later, a deafening bell rang throughout the arena. The arena became deadly silent yet again as everyone saw an old man in gray robes slowly descend from the sky. The old man was a soul refining stage level 7. He had neatly combed hair with a black goatee. Under everyone's curious gazes, the old man landed in the arena's center. Jia. After the old man landed on the neatly pruned grass field, he coughed a few times, clearing his throat. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, welcome to the annual prestigious Aqua Auction. I am the auctioneer Rix Tunbash for today's auction. Many of you might know the rules of the auction, but I will go through the rules again for the newcomers. Michael took a long sip of the orange juice and put the empty glass on the table before him. Afterward, Michael rested his legs on the table as the old man began to recite the rules and regulations. Every item in the auction is examined and verified for its authenticity by the best people in Aqua Palace. So rest assured, you won't be scammed, Rixtun said, pausing for a moment. Only the bidding token holders and VIPs can bid for an item. Every bid must be made in gold coins. Other currencies such as silver coins, antique items, and ores won't be accepted. Aqua Palace also kindly requests the audience to enjoy the auction without making too much of a ruckus. It sounded more of a threat than a request in Michael's ears. After successfully winning the bid, you will be contacted by one of our employees. You can either choose to pay the price and take the item immediately or pay later at the end of the day. The auction will last for 3 days and battles are strictly forbidden on the Aqua Palace grounds. Rixtun's grave voice reverberated through the arena. Knowing the Aqua Palace, none dared to break the rules. After all, the Aqua Palace was owned by the Arctic Hall and the Empress. Well, the rules have already been finished. I think everyone is very clear in mind. Michael was disappointed and surprised at the same time. He expected Rixtun to inform them about giving the buyers some protection, but he said nothing about it. What if someone decided to steal the item after one leaves the island? If you don't have the power to hold on to your items, then you don't deserve it. That's an unwritten rule in Aqua Auctions, Gaia said nonchalantly. That's unfair, Nightmare sighed, feeling disappointed by the Aqua Palace. Even Michael was disappointed too. A prestigious auction like the Aqua Auction should provide the buyers some security until they reach their destination. Otherwise, the powerful people could just snatch away an item from the weak. Back on Elon and Azair, many auctions resulted in an all-out war between noble families or between some rogue cultivator and a noble family. Either way, the auctions always resulted in bloodshed. The importance of a teleporter seemed higher and higher in Michael's mind. The crowd remained silent, listening to Rick's tongue without daring to utter a word until he finished going through the rules. Now that I went through the rules, it's time to finally start what you've been waiting for all this time. Let the annual Aqua auction begin. The crowd erupted into cheers as soon as the crowd heard Rick's tongue's thunderous shout. Only a small percentage possessed a bidding token to bid on items among the thousands of people. Still, they all cheered because not every day could they witness rare, ancient items with their own eyes. Plus, if they were lucky, they could see a nice battle outside the Aqua Island obviously. Soon, Rick's tongue turned his palms as a black pillar emerged from the grass field near Rick's tongue. A silver long sword rested upon the pillar, glistening in the light. Even from their rooms, Michael could hear the sword humming. The blade had a large, warped crossguard, which was to ensure the blade was both balanced and capable of protecting the owner's hands against any sliding sword. In addition, the crossguard had a gilded eye on each side, a clear sign this weapon belongs to a champion. A fairly small pommel was decorated with gilded linings, fancy decorations for a fancy sword. The blade itself was engraved. Ancient symbols were engraved on the blade, giving the blade a unique look. With a single look, Gaia could tell the sword belonged to the epic class. To be honest, she had never expected the Aqua auction to begin with an epic class item right out of the bat. It seemed like this year's Aqua auction would be a special one. Rick's tongue pointed at the silver sword. This is an epic class weapon. As far as our experts tested the sword, it could give the wielder a speed boost as well as create a low-pitched vibration to void off mindless beasts. To Michael, the sword sounded okay, but the others were so excited as many drooled at the sword. However, Michael had no intention of buying the sword even though he was in need of a good pair of swords. The starting bid for this sword is 1 million gold coins, Rick's tongue said. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. Not even a second passed since Rock's tongue spoke when someone from a VIP room bid for the sword. 1.5 million. Another one bid for the sword from another VIP room. Because the VIP rooms were shielded by the black glass, no one could see who was inside another VIP room. That was why Michael didn't see the Thusians bidding for the sword. Michael noticed Rick's tongue had never mentioned a certain amount to increase for each bid like the auction he had attended. So the bid for the sword went from 1.5 million to 4 million in a few minutes. 7 million. Suddenly a clear, crisp voice echoed through the arena, drawing everyone's attention. Michael turned his head in the voice's direction, but the black glass covering each VIP room prevented him from locating the voice's owner. However, Michael had X-ray vision to see through the mirror. His thermal vision showed Michael a man's silhouette. If he was right, it was the Golden Prince who bid for the sword. The nobles in VIP rooms instantly recognized the prince's crisp, steel-like voice. They wanted the sword for themselves, but it was not worth crossing the Golden Prince. As a result, they all stopped bidding for the sword. It's bad for business, Nightmare said. No shit, Gaia agreed with Nightmare. If I had an auction house, I would mask everyone's voice and prevent anyone from revealing their background. That way, everyone can bid without fearing the strong. Gaia was right as always. When it comes to anything related to making money, she was an unparalleled genius. At least, she was more intelligent than the Aqua Palace owners, who didn't think of masking the VIPs. Otherwise, the sword would have gone for more than 7 million. Sold for VIP number 3, the Golden Prince. Rick's tongue shouted, revealing the man who just bid for the sword. Sitting on the sofa, Michael furrowed his brows. The old man had no need to reveal the Golden Prince's name. Instead, he could have simply said the VIP room number. Something rubbed Michael in the wrong way about this whole auction. Is he just showing off or actually needs that sword? Michael whispered to Eve, "Who knows?" Eve shrugged. At that moment, the crowd had murmured amongst themselves, looking between the Golden Prince's room that had a glowing number 3 floating outside in the air and the sword. Then, a while later, the pillar along with the sword slowly slid into the ground. Let's take a look at the next item. Rixton flicked his wrist as the pillar slowly emerged from the ground just like before. However, this time, a crystal orb was atop the pillar. After the appearance of the sphere, the temperature of the entire auction site suddenly dropped, and many people felt a little cold, including Michael. A white mist slowly blanketed the arena until Rixton clapped his hands together. His clap immediately produced a powerful shockwave that instantly blasted the white mist away. Afterward, he turned his gaze towards the crystal orb. Inside this crystal is the ancient ice dragon's heart. Those who didn't know, Ice Dragon was the last royal dragon who breathed ice instead of fire. Chapter 6:18. The Hunt Family and the Cure. As Rixton mentioned, the heart inside the ice crystal belonged to an ice-breathing dragon that lived in the treacherous ocean. It was the last of his kind. After the war between beastmen and the dragons, as well as the dragon clan's sudden disappearance, only a few dragons lived in the treacherous ocean. The ice-breathing dragon was one of them. The dragon's coldness could shatter even a fusion-stage cultivator's body. Since it lived in a treacherous ocean, none dared to bother the dragon until a brave adventurer managed to collect a few body parts of the dragon. As soon as Michael heard Rixton, he desired to get the heart for Nightmare. He could think of a few potions that could use the dragon's heart as an ingredient to give Nightmare a new ability. However, he doubted he could get his hands on the dragon's heart. If I started to list out the things you can do with the ice dragon's heart, we will all have to be here the whole day. So, I would directly begin the bidding instead of wasting everyone's time. The starting price of this treasure is 10 million. People gasped for air in shock after hearing the outrageous price. 20 million, right out of the bat, a noble doubled the bid by placing a 20 million bid. That's my current net worth, Michael sighed, thinking how poor he is compared to the nobles in our. 25 million, another man shouted from a VIP room. 50 million, not even a couple of minutes passed since Rixton started the bid, but they had already hit the 50 million mark. It was truly outstanding. Am I jealous of them? Michael questioned himself after seeing the real wealthy people showing how rich they are to the world. Michael was taken aback by surprise. Someone had increased the body by 25 million like it was nothing. Michael activated his thermal vision to locate the rich noble. His eyes scanned all the VIP rooms, but unfortunately, the one who bid was adjacent to their VIP room, which prevented Michael from looking at them. Unless Michael could get his head through the glass, he wouldn't be able to see the nobles. Michael had no idea these nobles who occupied the room next were Thusians. 55 million, a lady with a melodious voice bid for the heart next. 70 million, the Thusians raised the bid once again, and this time, none bid against them. The ice dragon heart was a rare thing, but they didn't think it was worth 70 million. Who are these people? Nightmare asked, shocked by their wealth. They forked up 70 million like it was nothing. Although Gaia was a princess, she had never spent coins as lavishly as the other princesses because she knew how hard it was to earn them. Unfortunately, Celice, Gaia's stepmother, didn't share her thoughts. Thus, she spent the coins on all kinds of expenses, driving the kingdom to near bankruptcy. Gaia knew the value of gold coins more than anyone. So naturally, she hated the nobles for giving away 70 million as there was no need to go that high. They could have increased the bid bit by bit and bought the dragon's heart for 60 million. Since it wasn't her coins, Gaia didn't bother to say anything. This chapter upload first at NovelBin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. Sold to VIP number 2, the Thusians. The moment Rixton uttered the word Thusians, Eve felt the temperature in the room drop by several degrees. Nightmare and Gaia immediately glared at Michael to see his eyes reddening. Not only did the veins in his eyes pop, but also the veins on his face bulged. Even with Michael's control over anger, he failed to remain calm when he heard the word Thusians. Ghost. Eve noticed the changes on his face. She slowly placed her hand on his shoulder, asking worriedly, "Are you all right?" "Why wouldn't he be?" Gaia quickly answered Eve before Eve could make any connection between Michael and Kingdom Thusia. "I am fine." Michael took a deep breath. He could vividly see the images of his sanctuary burning, his elders drawing their last breath, the Wuxian soldiers brutally murdering everyone he knew and beating him to death flashed. He would give anything to seek revenge against the Thusians. If it wasn't for the soul part that grew on Earth, Michael would have gone to the VIP room and started massacring them without a shred of mercy. Squeezing Michael's hand, Gaia wordlessly told him to remain calm. "I am fine. Just remembered some things that I don't want to," Michael said, taking a few deep breaths. "The next thing we will show you is a last-minute addition to the auction items. I am positive that all of you have heard about the Molten Plague. Kingdom Thera has been put on lockdown because of this plague. Although we haven't heard of anyone falling sick to the plague outside Thera, we cannot be sure. These are trying times. But if you have a loved one suffering from the Molten Plague or just want to be safe, worry not. The Aqua Palace acquired a cure for the plague." Upon hearing Rixtun's words, the Golden Prince leaned forward on his sofa. "So the spies are right. Someone did come up with a cure." The Golden Prince rubbed his chin. Unlike the other VIPs, the Golden Prince didn't have any guards around him. He came here alone, seeking the truth behind the alleged cure. On the ground, Rixtun flicked his wrist as a vial with glistening purple liquid emerged from the ground atop a pillar. "We have examined the potion and can say with utmost certainty that this potion not only cures the Molten Plague but prevents anyone from getting infected by the plague. This miraculous cure was brewed by the #1 alchemist in Elon, Master Ghost. As per the deal, Rixtun promoted Michael on the grand stage." "Ghost?" The Golden Prince tilted his head, searching through his memories to see if he had heard such a name before. In fact, many nobles did the same, but only a few heard the name Ghost. These nobles had some connections to Azair and Elon, unlike the rest, who failed to recognize Michael. But, of course, the handful of nobles who recognized Michael included the Thusians. After all, Michael was the Wuxian Alchemy Guild's leader. So naturally, they heard about Ghost even though they had never met him eye to eye. These Thusians even had the audacity to feel proud, except for a few who opposed Ghost for giving the cure to Aqua Palace instead of His Majesty Maxim Barnes. The starting bid for this potion that would change the fate of R is 5 million gold coins, 7 million. Michael heard a stoic voice for the first time. Michael didn't see the man, but his voice made Michael imagine a Viking with a full beard and muscular body. Because the voice was rough, thick, and heavy. 10 million. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed despite the bids, Eve saw no happiness in either of their faces. Yet, Eve chose not to question them as she heard about their deal with the Aqua Palace from Michael himself. No matter how much the nobles paid for the cure, Michael wouldn't get a single coin. Instead, all the coins would go to the Aqua Palace as a part of their deal. After putting the cure on the market, Gaia knew they couldn't put a 10 million price tag on the potion. Ultimately, only a small percentage in R could afford something priced at 10 million. So, to maximize their profits and sales, they had to come up with a lower price and wholesale the potions to each ruler in R. These kings and queens would then distribute the cures to their citizens. 12 million, a man raised the bid. 20 million, 22 million, Michael heard the nobles rapidly raising the price of his potion. However, he was surprised to see the Golden Prince remaining silent the entire time. He or the Thusians didn't bid because the Golden Prince knew the Aqua Palace would start distributing the potions for a much lower price and the Thusians knew they could get the cure from the man who brewed the cure himself. So the two parties chose not to bid for the cure. The Hunt family bids 25 million. The rough voice resonated in the arena yet again. As soon as everyone heard the voice, the bidding war had just stopped. None dared to bid against the man afterward. R had many prominent noble families, and the Hunt family was the second most powerful family among them. This multiracial family was only second to the Gondolin royal family in terms of wealth and power. The Hunt family was known to produce prodigies, including the late Harriet Hunt. The latter shook the entire world with her heaven-defying cultivation. The Empress herself feared that Harriet might overtake her in cultivation with enough time. It was a pity that Harriet Hunt and her two sisters died in an unforeseen accident. Even after her death, many academies in R taught their disciples about Harriet. Moreover, the Empress erected a statue of Harriet in Gondolin's capital as a sign of respect for Harriet Hunt. However, none of them had any idea that Harriet Hunt was very much alive and living as Diana Winston in Elon. The Hunts are here, huh? Now I have a feeling we might get some entertainment after the auction, Gaia grinned. She couldn't believe they were between the Thusians and the Hunts. After noticing the silence, Rixton looked at the VIP room next to Michael's. Sold for 25 million to the Hunts, Michael paid no mind to the Hunts. As far as he was concerned, they were just another one of the powerful families in R. Ignoring the Hunts, Michael focused more on figuring out the most brutal way to kill the Thusians next to him. Following the cure, Rixton brought 3 more treasures one after another. These 3 treasures were respectively obtained by the Hunt family, Thusians, and the Brugo family, which hailed from the kingdom of Orcs. Many nobles, like the Golden Prince, didn't bother to bid for these items because they knew these items were just a warm-up. The real treasures would only appear later in the auction. The auction lasted for 2 hours with no items that interested Michael or Eve. Eventually, Rixton took a deep breath. The first day of the auction concludes now. Please return here tomorrow morning for the second day of Aqua Auction, Rixton said before ascending to the sky. Meanwhile, the crowd slowly began to disperse, including the VIPs. I hope you two don't mind staying in one room, Eve playfully winked at Gaia. All the rooms are booked. So I could only book 2. One for me and one for the 3 of you. Chapter 6:19 Marriage of Ghost and Victoria. The Voldegards booked a room in a luxurious tavern. The ground floor was an inn that had several people drinking and dancing. Michael, however, was not in the mood to mingle with the ground. Instead, he and Gaia followed Eve behind until they reached the wooden door. This is your room. If you need something, I am just a door away, Eve said as Michael twisted the metal knob, opening the door with a small creak. See you tomorrow, Michael nodded at Eve before walking into his room with Gaia. The room was clean, neat, and cozy. There was a white queen bed big enough for Michael and Gaia, a large window draped with an orange curtain, blocking the light, and a small round table with a couple of red chairs for them to dine in. Nightmare leaped onto the bed and bounced on it to see how bumpy the bed was. Thusians, huh? Gaia asked, closing the door behind her. The room fell silent as Michael just leaned on the wall watching the busy streets through the cracks between the curtains. If it makes you any better, we can go kill them. Gaia came to his side. She slowly hugged him from behind and rested her head on his shoulder. Immediately, Michael felt the light jasmine fragrance coming from her. Her hug was tight and warm. It had a certain magical effect to make him smile for a moment. Put simply, Michael was already planning on it. The best way to contain his anger was to blow off some steam. Otherwise, his mind wouldn't work at full capacity. As a result, he might make mistakes. Michael did not want to make any mistakes, especially now with the sea folks on his tail. Therefore, Michael decided to kill the Thusians. However, he had to wait till the night falls when his power would grow significantly. Meanwhile, Michael sent a couple of drones to follow the Thusians and ordered Azazel to watch the feed. Michael ordered Azazel to inform him as soon as possible in case something felt wrong. After Heinberg's death, Michael was thinking of something permanent to watch over the feeds coming from the spiders. Since Azazel was in physical form, he would be more useful to Michael outside the dark forest than inside. He wanted something else to take Azazel's place of watching the feed. Why don't we go into their room, make them weaker with the plague and kill them nice and slowly? Gaia slowly ran her fingers through Michael's chest. Her voice was extremely seductive. If it wasn't for his promise that he wouldn't take her before the marriage, he would have been on the bed right now. But even her seductive tone couldn't take his mind off of the Thusians. Every time he blinked, he could see nothing but dead bodies and the burning sanctuary. After merging with all the soul pieces, the feeling of betrayal became several times stronger. At that moment, he would give anything to wipe out Thusia from existence. Hey Gaia! Michael turned around to look her in her eyes. "What do you say we go to Thusia after coming out of Mazeroth?" asked Michael. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. "I thought you'd never ask," Gaia headbutted Michael gently. Initially, Gaia thought her life was a tragedy. But her life seemed all rainbows and butterflies compared to Michael's. So Gaia wanted to help him destroy Thusia before dealing with her own kingdom. To be honest, she felt no rush to visit Nagaland until at least she was at fusion stage. "It's time I pay them back for what they did to me." Michael and Gaia silently waited till nightfall. Today the sky was pitch black without a moon or any stars. When the previously busy steers became void of any crowd, Michael and Gaia flew through the window. Michael headed towards the tavern where the Thusians were staying. For some reason, the Thusians decided to stay in a tavern in the middle of a forest. Granted, Michael could see the crystal blue lake outside the tavern, giving the customers a nice view. Inside the tavern, one minister at soul refining stage and 3 elders at fusion stage sat before a fireplace, enjoying the hot coffee. The red-haired minister leaned back on his chair, gazing at the ice crystal in his hand. The Thusians could hardly see the triangular-shaped heart trapped within the ice crystal. "Give it to me, Rita. I want to take a look at it." Freddy, who was a dark-haired lean man, furrowed his gaze. The 4 of them were best friends long before Rita had become a minister. Thus, they called each by their name instead of any honorifics. "I bought it so I get to hold it," Rita chuckled. While the 4 friends were having a good time under the fireplace's warmth, they noticed a group of elves entering the hall through the wooden door. These elves seemed to be guarding the elven woman in the middle. Ignoring their gazes, the elves climbed the stairs to get to the 2nd floor. "I have seen her somewhere," Ryder rubbed his chin. He poked every corner of his brain to see where he met her. She seemed awfully familiar to Ryder. "Hey Dumbo, didn't you see the single silver leaf symbol on their chests?" "They are the Valrin family," Freddy rolled his eyes. The Valrins were another powerful family in R, but they were not from Gondolin. Rather, the Valrins hailed from Sil Allery. Since the Valrins were relatives to Sil Allery's king Lycler Allery, the Valrins held unprecedented power within Sil Allery. Coupled with the fact that one of the Valrins was an Alpha Guardian, none dared to cross the Valrins in Sil Allery. After hearing Freddy, Rita had a moment of realization. "She is Tenulia Valrin. I knew I saw her somewhere." With the cosmic stream, his dream wasn't too far. Do you think His Majesty will give a shit about nobility in this case? He is a heaven-defying prodigy, 5-star alchemist, and now, the King of Breedia. To be honest, he is no lesser than Her Royal Highness in any way. "I am with Rita on this one," a bald-headed man named Sindre sided with Rita. "I heard about Ghost. His achievements are quite shocking. With time and resources, he might hit the fusion stage within a few years from now on. Once he reaches the fusion stage, I won't be surprised if the Empress herself asked his hand in marriage for one of her daughters. So what if that happens, huh? Do you expect Her Royal Highness to be his secondary queen?" Freddy asked with a tinge of fury in his eyes. "That's for His Majesty to figure out. Just lay back and relax. We don't get paid to think about their family affairs," Sindre replied. Suddenly, as they were talking, they heard thudding footsteps above them. "Did you hear that?" They all quickly spread their senses to see if there was someone outside. However, their senses picked up nothing. Might be a cat or something. Ryder refused to pay much mind to the footsteps. After all, he didn't need to worry about security as the place had runes and arrays to stop and neutralize any unauthorized visitors. Chapter 620. Enslaving a God. At that moment, 3 bright lights floated inside a lavish throne hall. The walls surrounding the 3 lights had high, stained glass windows of mesmerizing mosaics concealed by curtains adorned with intricate embroidery and jewels. The thousands of gems on the askew ceiling danced in the flickering light while the 3 lights looked down upon the marble floor of this grand hall. Their energy radiation was none like anyone the mortals have seen except Diana. 22 years ago, these three witnessed Wulfric and Andreas performing the forbidden spell on Diana. The three of them thought they had closed the chapter of Dark Lord forever until yesterday. He didn't only return to this universe but also had the power to rival them as a celestial being. Just a thought of the Dark Lord made these Sky Hall elders shiver to the core. The three lights gradually lost their radiance, showing a silhouette inside each light. How could this be? We were there when the portal to the Void Realm opened. We saw Wulfric and Andreas sending the Dark Lord to Earth. How could this happen? How is he here? A white-haired woman clad in sky-blue armor stepped out of the light. She was tall, stern, and radiated an aura of a warrior. Although she didn't carry a weapon in hand, she seemed like an embodiment of the word warrior. Yet, even a fierce warrior like her stuttered when talking about the Dark Lord. What they witnessed yesterday sent shivers running through their spines. What shocked them further was the Dark Lord sensed their presence. Something must have gone wrong with the ritual. A cold voice resonated in the hall as a short burly figure with a pot belly, thick long bushy beard, and long hair walked out of the light. Even after reaching the celestial stage, the man couldn't stop excluding a drunken Viking vibe. Despite his status, the man only wore leather greaves and leather shoulder armor. We could ask Eladir, but oh wait, he's escaped from his imprisonment. This time, an elven man with haughtiness stepped out of the light. Sarcasm oozed out of his voice. The three bright lights faded away, revealing their figures clearly. The warrior lady was a human, the burly man was a dwarf, and finally, the sarcastic man was an elf. The archangels are scouring the Aquilon realm as we speak, the lady said. That's what you said a month ago, growled the dwarf. There is no need for any quarrel. In case you two have forgotten, we still have trump cards waiting to be used, the elf grinned. True to his word, the elf waved his hand as two figures made of smoke appeared before them. Slowly, each smoky figure turned into a young woman. One figure wore armor set with a rounded helm and a face guard. Attached to the forehead area was a crafted leather ornament piece shaped like a lion's mouth. The shoulders were oval, short, and quite large, decorated with three big, curved wooden spikes on each side, lined up from back to front. She had a perfectly sculpted face, porcelain skin, and silky raven black hair. The figure floating beside the black-haired girl was a petite, golden-haired girl, dressed in purple robes. She looked a couple of years younger than the black-haired girl, as she still had a tinge of childness on her face. Both these figures remained still with their eyes closed. Looking at the two figures, the human lady remained expressionless while the dwarf furrowed his busy brows. Yasmin Winston and Jennifer Voldegard, the elf hovered towards the figures he summoned. He grinned, looking at his handiwork. His hand went straight through their smoky figures when he moved his hand across their bodies. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. The God of Light only has two weaknesses. The elf raised two fingers, family and love. With them, we can exploit his weaknesses, the elf smirked. Judging by the elf's look, the dwarf knew he had formed a long-time plan way before they actually agreed to clone two humans. Usually, the dwarf preferred to end the conflicts with his war hammer, but after taking a glance at the future, even he controlled his lust for battle and decided to be patient. The dwarf turned his head to see the lady remain calm as a lake. She didn't even bat an eye. This is how we beat the God of Light, Thorfinn Borgerson, the elf said, ridiculing the dwarf. Not by sending a bunch of shells to kill him, the elf chuckled again. Seeing the ridicule in the elf's voice, Thorfinn clenched his fist. At least I did something. What were you doing? Sitting on your ass, plotting to get your hands on the holy maiden, Thorfinn growled. Despite the dwarf's growl, the elf remained as playful as ever. What can I say? I like the thrill of the hunt. Shut up, both of you. We just saw the Dark Lord and you two are acting like nothing's happening. The lady raised her voice, shutting both of them. Then she hovered towards Yasmin Winston and Jennifer Voldegard. Like it or not, the Dark Lord is here. Which means we all failed to imprison him. Did you even bother to think about what's going to happen to our world? Asked the lady, looking at the dwarf and the elf. The images of the future they had seen flashed across their eyes. A universe without any light or happiness, a sky painted with red, and all races void of any will to do anything other than serving the Dark Lord. Those were just a few glimpses. As much as I hate to succumb to this, we have to go with Devdan's plan. The lady looked at the elf. Asked Thorfinn, although he had a good idea about their fate knowing Devdan. You cannot put two souls in one body, Thorfinn, said Devdan nonchalantly. Stop your bullshit. You killed them. Killing is a strong word. They sacrificed themselves for the greater good. Isn't that what we all want? Thorfinn felt like coughing up blood. He had lived for hundreds of years, yet he had never seen such a selfish person like Devdan in his life. So hearing the elf talking about sacrificing for the greater good sounded like bullshit to him. Devdan, on the other hand, just ignored the dwarf's glare. You heard the lady, no more trying to kill Noah, Thorfinn. Keep your dogs on leash. Devdan patted Thorfinn on the shoulder. He then just waved at the smoky figures as they slowly vanished into thin air. Sometimes, Thorfinn wished he could just kill Devdan. Although they had reached the celestial stage and lived for thousands of years, their enmity ran deep. The only thing that kept them from killing each other was their common enemy, the Dark Lord. Otherwise, each elder would have plotted to kill the other and succeeded a long time ago. Think about it, Devdan. I am not a smartass like you, but even I could see if the spell failed to mess with Noah's head, you would end up paying for what you did to his cousin and his sweetheart. So pray to your elven gods for the spell to work. Otherwise, you'd wish my ways had worked. With one last grin, Thorfinn disappeared from the room as well. After they had all left, Devdan waved his hand again. This time, a silhouette resembling Rowena appeared before him. When everything's over, you and I will rule this universe together, darling. You and me. Devdan grinned with eyes full of lust. He had never lusted over a girl in his entire life, let alone a human girl. But something about her made Devdan long for her like crazy. Soon I will get you. Chapter 621. Ambushing Tanulia Valrin. Back in the tavern on the outskirts of Allen Allery, one of the three dukedoms and where the Aqua Palace was located, Tanulia Valrin made her way to the carriage waiting outside. The soldiers followed her close despite her cultivation stage. To be honest, she didn't need any protection as she was the strongest among them. Her guards were only at the soul refining stage. The carriage waiting outside was hooked to horses rather than a Pegasus. Upon seeing the moonless sky, the darkness reminded Tanulia of the Dark Lord. Only then did she notice the horses hooked onto the carriage instead of Pegasus. Her furrowed brow made the old man shudder. As a human, the old man knew the elves' tendency to punch the humans. However, he was lucky that Tanulia wasn't in the mood to punish him. Moreover, she felt riding the carriage instead of flying may be a good way to calm her mind and soul. My lady, the Pegasi fell sick. Please forgive my incompetence. The old man quickly dropped to his knee. Rise. Tanulia waved her hand. Just drive the carriage to Thera, Tanulia said before opening the carriage door with a small clicking sound. Yes, my lady. The old man frantically nodded and hopped onto the driver's seat. The surrounding elves were displeased to ride the horses like humans, but they had no choice. After entering the carriage, Tanulia settled onto her seat. A small orb of light illuminated the interior. It was decorated with dark purple walls and cushions to make the journey as cozy as possible. The old man slapped the reins as the horses neighed. The horses then clip-clopped on the pavement built through the forest. Sitting inside the carriage, Tanulia hardly felt any bumps. Tanulia closed the curtains and flicked her wrist. Soon, a golden parchment appeared in her hand. After opening the parchment, she saw a few lines of a message written in a rush. She could hardly make out the words. The Dark Lord is in Thera. Tanulia mumbled the words written on the parchment. After escaping the Dark Lord's wrath in Dreidel, the elders ordered her to stay as far as possible from the Dark Lord. They didn't want Tanulia to obstruct Mutrad's investigation. However, Tenulia sought revenge. She couldn't help it. After all, her decisions caused the lives of many loyal guardians, including Tiriana and Peyton. Lucifer, Tenulia clenched her fist. There was spite in her voice. Cough, cough. Suddenly, Tenulia coughed twice, closing her mouth. When she moved her hand away from the mouth, she noticed specks of blood on her palm. It had been a couple of days since she had been infected with the molten plague. She surveyed the site continuously, careful not to miss the smallest detail. "My lady, where did they go?" the old man asked in a husky voice. There was dread and fear in his voice. One moment the 4 soul refiners were following him behind, and the next moment, they disappeared without a trace. Judging by the frown on her face, the old man didn't think the soul refiners left their horses under her order. Suddenly, the old man heard a rustling sound as he quickly jerked his head in the direction where the sound came. Cough, cough. Tenulia coughed again. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed, she quickly flicked her wrist, taking out a sparkling blue healing potion from her space ring. Without wasting a second, she emptied the potion into her mouth. There was something eerie about this. The horses kept neighing until they suddenly ran off into the sea of trees, disappearing from her sight. Leaves rained down upon them as though it was autumn, and the ground was blanketed by dead leaves. Although Tenulia knew something was obviously wrong and eerie, she was unable to pinpoint it. Aside from the sound of hooves crunching the leaves and the old man's teeth cluttering in fear, the forest was silent. "Make them shut up," Tenulia ordered the old man. The sound of horses neighing annoyed her. "Nothing has happened to me. It's all right," the old man mumbled, shaking the worries from his mind. Once he arrived near the horses, he gently brushed the horse's man to calm it down. With gentle movement, he was able to make one calm, but when he was about to touch the second horse, he felt a strong gust of wind brush past him. The wind almost knocked him down to the ground. The old man couldn't remain calm any longer. His frail legs began to shiver. "Who is there?" snarled Tenulia. Just like the old man, she also felt the gust of wind. Unfortunately, the wind put out the torch, as well as the orb of light floated beside Tenulia. As a result, darkness enveloped them. "My lady!" Suddenly, Tenulia heard a wail of cry resonating from the woods. As though in a queue, several arrows shot out from all directions, penetrating the carriage and Tenulia's hand. "It's an ambush!" shouted the old man. Unsheathing sound echoed through the forest as Tenulia drew the silver sword hanging on her waist. Due to the molten plague's effects, Tenulia lost most of her connection to the arch and celestial energy. She swung the sword, cutting some of the arrows in half. As an Alpha Guardian, she was trained to use all the weapons including swords. With precise swings, she was able to defend herself. Despite her weak state, she readied herself to cast a defense shield. But the barrage of arrows stopped. Several dozen arrows riddled the carriage, yet none of them harmed the old man or the 2 horses. The forest was once again quiet, with only the old man's cluttering teeth to cut the silence. Tenulia held the arrow sticking out of her left arm, trembling as blood flowed down. Although the Valrin family inquired with the Hunt family about the cure, they did not reveal Tenulia's condition. After all, if the rival families got any whiff of the Valrin family having a sick one and a protector at that, the rival families would attack them like a pack of hungry hyenas. When Tenulia thought about it, everything led her to believe this was either a mind-blowing coincidence or a perfectly planned ambush. Except for her parents, no one knew about her sickness, not even her personal guards. The possibility of her being attacked at the precise moment when she was weak and vulnerable was highly unlikely unless someone had planned everything perfectly. Still, the question remained. How did one learn about Tenulia's sickness? "My lady, are you there?" The old man could hardly raise his voice. He just crawled under the carriage and curled into a ball to make himself as small as possible. At the end of the day, he was just a carriage driver who had no obligation to die for the elves. Unlike her personal guards, he was just working for coins. So he would rather save himself than die for Tanulia. Besides, he was not a fighter. The most powerful thing he killed was a wild boar when he went hunting with his 5 friends. "Shut up," Tanulia growled with a tinge of pain and anger in her voice. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Suddenly, a woman's voice reverberated in the area. Tanulia's pain was slowly replaced by shock. She wanted to catch the ambusher, feed her to the dogs, and personally hang her by the neck. "How I wonder what you are," the mysterious woman spoke slowly. "Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky." As soon as Tanulia heard this phrase, her body went rigid. She had heard these exact words before. To be exact, 25 years ago, when she met the heaven-defying prodigy of the Hunt family, Harriet Hunt. Chapter 623, Gaia vs. Harriet 2. After killing Tanulia, Harriet ready to leave the area. Just as she was about to disappear into the woods, Harriet heard a rustling sound. Harriet paused on her steps, waiting for another one to walk out of the shadows. As Harriet expected, a figure clad in black armor from head to toe emerged from the woods. Just with a single look, Harriet could tell the figure was a woman due to the perfect hourglass structure and the way she walked toward her. Harriet stared at the crimson red glistening under the dark hood. "Would you answer me if I asked who you are?" Harriet heard the woman talk. There was a shock in her voice. Her glistening eyes looked around the place. They briefly paused at Tanulia's head. Harriet swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Her heartbeat rose. There was no way Harriet would fight the girl before her. It was not because Harriet feared her but because Harriet knew the girl's identity. Under all the armor and hood, Harriet knew it was Elia, her son Ghost's fiancée. Since Harriet knew the Dark Lord was Ghost, naturally his fiancée would be the Dark Queen. Unlike Noah, Ghost dedicated himself to one woman. So it wasn't hard for Harriet to see through Gaia's disguise. "I wish I could answer you," Harriet sighed. "The Dark Lord wants to see you, woman. So it would be wise to accept the invitation," Gaia said in her demonic voice. To Michael and Gaia's surprise, when Michael and Gaia arrived at the inn, they saw Tanulia Valran. Initially, they planned to murder the Thusians, but after seeing Tanulia, they changed their plans. Michael chose the Thusians, while Gaia decided to follow Tanulia with the weaponized plague to weaken Tanulia and her men. However, she was utterly stunned when she noticed someone else was following Tanulia. Moreover, Gaia saw the woman effortlessly taking out 4 soul refiners like they were nothing. Due to her curious nature, Gaia stood behind and watched everything. She was completely taken aback to see the woman brutally murder Tanulia. "I can't ask you to trust me, but step aside." "We don't have to do this," Harriet exclaimed. Gaia was surprised to hear the tinge of helplessness in the woman's voice. She was a soul refining stage level 5 cultivator. Thus, Gaia knew the woman had nothing to fear her. In fact, after seeing how she handled herself, Gaia was sure the woman could fight her toe to toe. Yet, the woman seemed to want to avoid the battle. "You're right. We don't have to. So come with me. I give you my word the Dark Lord won't harm you." Gaia had no intention of fighting the mysterious woman. As far as Gaia could tell, she shared the same hatred for the Guardians like Michael and her. So Gaia wanted to make the woman their subordinate. A powerful fighter such as her would make an excellent subordinate. Taking a deep breath, Harriet looked over her shoulder to see the old man, lying under the carriage without moving an inch. "He is not dead, just sleeping," Gaia said. Before Gaia approached Harriet, she knocked out the old man so the old man wouldn't listen to their conversation. "What about this? Let's have a friendly battle. Whoever lands the first blow wins," Harriet said. "If that's what you want, so be it. If I win, you come with me. If you win, I'll let you go," Gaia agreed. However, Gaia had already surrounded the forest with spiders and drones. Even if Gaia couldn't beat the woman, She could follow the mysterious woman using the spiders and drones. To be honest, Gaia wasn't completely confident she could defeat the mysterious woman. As a warrior, Gaia was able to tell the mysterious woman was someone who had experienced hundreds of battles. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, I have to bring her to Michael, Gaia said to herself. She heard the mysterious woman recite a phrase similar to Michael's. Gaia wondered whether she could be connected to Michael somehow. Harriet, on the other hand, hated to fight her daughter-in-law. Elia was her family, but Harriet would rather fight Elia than her own son. She had a better chance of defeating Elia than Dean. Suppose Dean recognized her face, everything Harriet had done would go in vain. No matter what happened, she must protect her identity. Gaia slowly made her way to Harriet. To Gaia's surprise, Harriet didn't unsheath her swords. Instead, she just cracked her knuckles. Upon getting closer to Harriet, Gaia released the fear toxin from her suit of armor. However, Harriet noticed the change in the air. Fortunately, she was immune to all the poisons and illnesses thanks to her ancient god Aurora's blood coursing through her veins. When Gaia and Harriet met in the middle, Gaia threw her fist, aiming for Harriet's head. The latter managed to bend back and avoid the fist. As soon as Harriet dodged the fist, she raised her leg to kick Gaia in the abdomen, but the latter swayed her body to the side, avoiding the kick. Without giving Harriet a second to react, Gaia leaped into the air, attempting to land a kick on Harriet's head. Harriet kept blocking the kicks using her hands as Gaia traveled in the air for a couple of minutes. Blocking her kicks, Harriet's hands started to numb, but she continued to do so. Finally, after blocking almost 60 kicks, Harriet grabbed Gaia's leg and threw her against a nearby tree. Yet, Gaia managed to kick the tree, stopping herself from colliding with the tree. Her kick had enough power to create cracks in the bark. Splinters flew in all directions as the leaves rained down due to the force. Before her feet could touch the ground, Gaia boosted herself using the tree and shot toward Harriet like an arrow. Her shock wave created by Gaia's boost obliterated the poor tree into pieces. Harriet was surprised to see Elia's speed and her battle awareness. The dormant warrior deep down Harriet woke up excitedly. When Gaia's fist was about to hit Harriet's face, Harriet spun around to kick Gaia in the face. Just as she surprised Harriet, the latter surprised Gaia. Luckily, Gaia managed to grab Harriet's leg as they both fell to the ground. They both quickly kicked up almost at the same time. "You are good," Gaia said, admiring the mysterious woman. "I can say the same to you," Harriet said. Her son's choice was spot on. Elia was a perfect match for him in every way. It was a pity Harriet had to fight her loving daughter-in-law. "You don't want to use those swords?" asked Gaia. She wanted to see if this woman possessed the same fighting style as Ghost. "You are an archer, not a swordsman," Harriet calmly said, surprising Gaia. Gaia couldn't help raising her brow behind her mask. How did she? Might be a lucky guess. Gaia shook off the doubts in her head. "I don't want to hurt you, but I don't want to hold back either. After all, the longer we stay here, the less safe we are," said Harriet. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, Gaia and Harriet began to walk in a circle, keeping 5 meters distance from each other. They were poised to defend themselves from the other. "You could come with me," Gaia kidded as Harriet sighed. She almost wished she could go with Elia and tell her son everything. However, she did not want to put her son in more danger than he was already in. In case Skyhall was watching her, meeting her son would be like leading them straight to their target. So until she kills the Skyhall elders, she wouldn't meet Dean, although she wanted nothing more than to meet him and tell him she was his mother. "Let's finish our little duel," Harriet cracked her neck. As soon as she did this little movement, Gaia creased her brows. She had seen Michael do the same as the mysterious woman did. Coupled with the rhyme she recited, Gaia was almost sure this mysterious woman was somehow connected to Michael. But who she was to Michael remained the question. Besides her shock, Gaia wondered how she was still standing instead of trembling due to the fear toxin's effects. Yet, The woman didn't reveal a single sign of distress as Gaia expected. As Gaia was in doubt, Harriet dashed at her. This time, Harriet's speed was several times faster than before. Gaia could only see a blue, not her entire figure. Still, Gaia's battle instincts made her sway her body and bend down to evade Harriet's punch. Her evasion was short-lived as Harriet grabbed Gaia's hand in the blink of an eye and twisted it back. Arg, Gaia growled, running towards a nearby tree. There might be a chance King Maxim is looking to marry her as his second queen. Since kings marrying several girls was a normal thing, they weren't surprised as Michael, who listened to their conversation through a spider. So he wants to get the little fish since he couldn't get the big one? Rita chuckled. They knew about King Maxim's thirst for power and stubbornness to get whatever he wanted no matter the cost. So it wouldn't surprise them if King Maxim married Edith despite their age difference. Yet again, the age difference wasn't a big deal among the cultivators. If I am right, Edith's sister might be a prominent figure somewhere. Suppose King Maxim married Edith, her big sister would be obliged to aid Wuxia in the wars. It's a win-win for the king, Freddy said as the others gave him a slow nod. Wars? They are coming to an end in a few months. General Booth is literally killing thousands out there. Rita raised 3 fingers. They'll give you 3 months. In that time, Wuxia will annex all those who stood against us and become the largest kingdom in Azair. After that, General Booth will be named the Duke of Valeria. Michael, who heard the name, clenched his fist. 2 years ago, General Booth destroyed his sanctuary and massacred the people who raised him. The man was a devil incarnate who loved the suffering of others. Michael remembered the grin on his face when he slaughtered everyone regardless of gender or age. He could imagine how powerful Booth is now with cosmic energy coursing through his veins. The only reason King Maxim Barnes wanted to build an empire was to hide the cosmic stream. If any kingdom left standing against Wuxia, they might eventually find out about the cosmic stream. Michael knew Maxim would go to any length to prevent that from happening. "That's what they are calling it?" asked Freddy. There was ridicule in his voice as though he would have chosen a better name than that. "Yes, Freddy, that's what we are calling it. Don't forget you are a part of Wuxia, the first empire to have vessels across continents." Rita deepened his voice. Initially, Kingdom Wuxia was a part of the Elan continent. But King Maxim Barnes waged war against Kingdom Nalia and erased Nalia from the map. Soon, Nalia became the new Wuxia as King Maxim transferred his capital to the Azair continent. Fortunately for King Maxim, Nalia was ruled by a dictator who couldn't care less about the citizens. So when King Maxim achieved a glorious victory as the citizens welcomed King Maxim with bright smiles and parades. To this date, there wasn't a single protest against King Maxim for decimating Nalia. Although King Maxim was a treacherous, power-hungry man, he was a great king. Citizens prospered under his rule. As a result, he received undying loyalty and adoration from his people. Freddy nodded and leaned back in his chair. The burning logs crackled in the fireplace, breaking through the silence. Every time he traveled to Elan through the portal in Wuxia, he would hear something about the Dark Lord. The nobles were terrified of him while a group of commoners worshipped him. Everything he heard from his relatives and friends in Elan flashed across Rita's eyes. Many nobles left Elan fearing the wrath of the Dark Lord. Without even Michael introducing himself, Rita recognized him as the Dark Lord thanks to his menacing suit of armor. Rita would have wet his pants if Michael wore his dark suit version too. This one he currently wore was the old suit, with full dark robes, hood, and a cape. There were no intricate details, silver linings, metal plates, or runes engraved onto this armor. Rather, it was a plain black suit of armor. Nonetheless, his legend made Rita shiver at the simple sight of him. Thanks to the Molten Plague, Michael did not need any armor to protect himself. Michael saw Rita crawl back in fear. But before he could deal with the Thusians, Michael waved his hand as the crystal containing the ice dragon's heart flew straight to his hand from the table beside. Michael didn't even check the ice crystal as he put it into his system storage. Nightmare advised Michael to kill the Thusians later after they bought a few items. This way, not only Michael would get their lives but also their items. However, Michael didn't go with Nightmare's plan, although it was a great plan. Instead, Michael wanted to kill the Thusians as soon as possible. He might not get an opportunity like this ever again. No matter what, he wanted them dead. Every single one who helped King Maxim would die by his hand. After all, he promised himself he would destroy Thusia piece by piece. Leave us alone. Raida managed to utter these words. He wasn't going to beg the Dark Lord for mercy, as he would rather die than beg him. But no amount of begging would save them. Just by serving King Maxim loyally ensured their deaths in Michael's hands. "You are going to have a long, painful night," Michael exclaimed. Black lightning crackled around his wrist. Michael was about to strike Raida with the lightning bolt when he heard Gaia's voice in his head. "Michael, are you in danger?" asked Michael. "No, good. Whatever it is, it can wait. I am busy murdering these Thusian pigs." Michael didn't hide the cold killing in his heart. Hearing Michael, Raida's heart skipped a beat. He tried to conjure a spell, only to fail. "Let's begin," said Michael. "The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone." Chapter 625. Michael vs. Layla. Alden. Michael grabbed Raida by his neck and lifted himself in the air. He was the strongest among the four. So Michael focused on Raida. As Michael lifted Raida in the air, his legs twitched. Raida gasped for air, reaching out for Michael's neck. Raida wanted to squeeze Michael's neck, yet he simply couldn't reach his neck. Still, Raida tried until the lack of oxygen to his brain made his hands lose strength. Boom! Michael slammed Raida on the wooden table. Wooden splinters flew in all directions. Arg! Raida coughed more blood. Michael ignored Raida's pain because inflicting as much pain as possible was his intention. "Are you a loyal and reasonable person?" Michael asked Raida. Slowly, Michael placed his boot on Raida's feet. "Are you a loyal and reasonable person?" Michael repeated his words with a more deep voice than before. "Yes." Raida felt an excruciating pain in his feet as Michael applied a little bit more pressure. Raida could hardly breathe. Raida shouted as loud as he could. He hoped answering yes would make the Dark Lord stop crushing his feet. Luckily, Michael did stop crushing Raida's feet. "Loyal to Thusia." Michael snickered. For a moment, Michael just looked around the hall. He then raised his hand upwards, sending a powerful blast of wind. It destroyed the roof, putting a large hole directly above Michael. As a result, Michael felt more powerful under the dark sky. "Get up." Michael walked towards Freddy, who hated Ghost. "His tone." Raida stammered. "Freddy, Freddy, Freddy." Michael devilishly chuckled before picking Freddy off the ground by his neck. "I can literally smell the racism in you." Michael gently squeezed Freddy's neck until his face lost all color. While Michael was squeezing, a small needle extended from Michael's wrist, injecting the antidote to molten plague into Freddy's body. But Michael wanted Freddy and everyone to feel the pain. A few seconds later, Freddy slowly opened his eyes. His brain didn't even process what was in front of him when Michael slammed Freddy to the ground. Before even Freddy could scream, Michael kicked Freddy in the chest. His kick produced a cracking noise as though Michael had broken several ribs in Freddy's chest. Freddy coughed and groaned in pain. Meanwhile, Michael turned his gaze towards Baldi, who dealt with an underground criminal empire in Thusia. Just like he did to Freddy, Michael injected Freddy with the antidote before torturing him. To be honest, Michael hated torturing and wasting time with his enemies. However, he had some exceptions when it came to Thusia. "What happened?" Baldi mumbled. This time, Michael waited till Baldi to clearly see his face. He was curious to see how Baldi would react.